Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 1831, or Empire's Number 1 Swordsman or Empire, Silverwing Town. After Shifeng shook off the Dark Player's pursuit, he immediately returned to Zero Wing's residence in Silverwing Town to make arrangements for the transport and purchase of products from NPC merchants. Although he had already set up the trade route, the collection of usage fees from the NPCs who used the trade route would have to be carried out by both players and NPC soldiers. In addition, players would need to be present in person to purchase the goods that were meant to be sold to NPCs. Hence, he would need to assign considerable manpower to handle these tasks. Moreover, in order to make sure the items purchased were useful, he would have to send knowledgeable personnel to deal with the NPC merchants. However, as soon as Shifeng returned to the guild residence, he was greeted by a boisterous scene. Currently, guild members were chatting happily and excitedly with each other inside the guild hall. "Guild leader, you're back. Everyone is talking about you right now," Aqua Rose said, excitement sprouting in her heart when she saw Shifeng. "Because of your performance over at the Secret Stone Fortress, many people have already started titling you as the Empire's number 1 swordsman. Of course, there are some who object to this. They feel that you are unworthy of this title and will accept it only when they have actually fought you. Even so, due to this situation, many more players from the neighboring kingdoms are trying to join Zero Wing now. In addition, several well-known experts from the neighboring kingdoms want to challenge you. However, Fire Dance has accepted these challenges in your place and is currently fighting these experts in the battle arena right now. Well-known experts from other kingdoms are challenging me?" Shifeng could not help but smile upon hearing this. This is a good opportunity. He had never thought that his battle over at the Secret Stone Fortress would spark such a development. Before today, he had received many challenges from experts before. However, back then, these had been limited to the experts of Star Moon Kingdom. Now, however, even the experts of other kingdoms were challenging him. This proved that his fame had already reached a considerable degree in those kingdoms. Otherwise, the well-known experts of those kingdoms wouldn't have come to challenge him. Meanwhile, the fact that these experts had come to challenge him was a good thing for Silverwing Town. Aqua, from today onwards, set up a challenge arena in the battle arena specifically for people wishing to challenge me. However, they cannot just issue a challenge without restrictions. Before I accept their challenge, they'll have to win 10 consecutive matches against people of our choosing. For now, select our fighters from our main force members. The challengers have to pay 5 gold for each match. If the challengers win, they'll get 20 gold in return, Shifeng said. "I understand," Aqua Rose replied, her eyes glowing. With Shifeng's plan, they could not only increase the popularity of Silverwing Town's battle arena but also earn a lot of money and train the main force members, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Following which, Shifeng turned to Melancholic Smile, who stood beside Aqua Rose, and asked, "Melancholic, how is the production of the all-round devices and elven silver coming along?" Before he embarked on his quest to set up a trade route, he had left matters regarding the all-round devices and elven silver to Melancholic Smile to handle. The all-round device was an item he personally created. Hence, he could make as many copies of its design as he wanted. The only reason he had not bothered trying to mass-produce the all-round device until now was the much lower success rate other people would have when producing the all-round device compared to him, the creator. In addition, the production costs for the all-round device were also extremely high. However, now that everyone's forging techniques had improved, it wasn't entirely impossible to mass-produce the all-rounded device. Currently, only I have a feasible success rate when producing the all-round device. Hence, I am the only one producing it right now. I have already made 53 all-round devices. I am still far from fulfilling the 200 pieces you requested. However, Coco has become a master forger in Titan City. If we include her help, I believe it'll take only 1 more day for us to get the required 200 pieces. As for the elven silver, we already have over 200 bottles produced. We can deliver them to you at any time, Melancholic Smile reported joyfully. Coco has already been promoted into a master forger? Shifeng was overjoyed at this piece of news. A master lifestyle player would be welcomed by any major power, not to mention a master of the forger subclass, which was one of the 3 most popular subclasses. Now that Cream Cocoa had already become a master forger, the Candlelight trading firm's forging standards would also improve. Although Candlelight had 2 master forgers, as he was a guild leader, he was always busy with one thing or another. He simply could not afford to stay cooped up producing items. Likewise, Melancholic Smile had to manage the Candlelight trading firm. The time she could spend producing items was also very limited. However, Cream Cocoa was different. She did not have to manage any personnel or deal with guild affairs. She could focus fully on forging. Guild leader, this isn't everything. While you were away doing your quest, the people from the Ice Crystal world sent over another large batch of materials. Save for some of the specialty materials, I split the other materials into batches and had them brought to other kingdoms and empires to be sold. I also reserved a portion for our own use. After deducting our purchasing costs and the cost of the products brought over to the Ice Crystal world, we netted over 53,000 gold from this batch of materials, Melancholic Smile said. That much? Shifeng was a little surprised when he heard Melancholic Smile's report. While it had been several days since he returned from the Ice Crystal world, he had emptied the market of all the rare materials he could find in the 2 NPC cities before leaving. He had never imagined that the players there would refill the market with materials so quickly. He had to admit that the wealth earned by selling the rare materials obtained from other worlds was truly amazing. Of course, a large part of the success this time was due to the Azura Adventurer Team and Adventurer Alliance. Without these 2 organizations, collecting so many rare materials from the Ice Crystal world wouldn't have been possible. Meanwhile, they had already generated such massive wealth despite occupying only 2 NPC cities. If they could occupy the entire Ice Crystal world, the wealth they could generate would be many times more than even what the Secret Pavilion's magic crystal vein could provide. It was no wonder the various superpowers fought heavily over other worlds during his previous life. Back then, the intense competition for other worlds didn't allow second- and third-rate guilds to poke a hand into the competition. Even first-rate guilds could only fight for the scraps left behind by the various superpowers. Alright, I got it. After pondering for some time, Shifeng turned to Aqua Rose and said, Aqua, contact Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart and tell them that we'll have their items ready by tomorrow. If they are lacking in magic crystals, they can pay a portion of the bill using coins. I'll notify them right away. Aqua Rose nodded. After Shifeng was done dealing with these matters, he promptly headed to Silverwing Town's advanced smithy. Currently, the advanced smithy was overcrowded with players. The majority of these players were here to disassemble their obsolete weapons and equipment, after which, they would use the materials they obtained to order custom-made weapons and equipment. Whenever these players used the services offered by the advanced smithy, 10% of the total bill would go into Zero Wing's coffers. For the item breakdown service, Zero Wing would receive around 10 to 15 copper for bronze equipment, 20 to 30 copper for mysterious iron equipment, 40 to 50 copper for secret silver equipment, 70 to 80 copper for fine gold equipment, and 1 silver to 1 silver, 50 copper for dark gold equipment. While this might not seem like much, there were tons of people coming to get their old equipment disassembled. Including the money received from repairs and custom orders, Zero Wing earned over 400 gold from the advanced smithy every day. However, this was only the beginning. As players reached higher levels and the fame of the advanced smithy spread, more and more players would come to order custom-made equipment. At that time, the advanced smithy could earn 1,000 to 2,000 gold per day. After Shifeng took a look at the advanced smithy's situation and had his weapons and equipment repaired, he used a return scroll and teleported back to White River City. He then made his way to Star Moon City's Adventurers Association. Star Moon Kingdom, Star Moon City. Inside one of the Adventurers Association's VIP rooms. Lord Protector, how may I be of service to you today? The NPC Senior Administrator asked as he looked at Shifeng. I wish to construct a transportation firm in Silverwing Town. Here is the design for it. I hope that you can start construction as soon as possible, Shifeng replied before placing the transportation firm design on the table before him. Previously, as his funds had been insufficient, he had planned on setting the transportation firm aside for the moment. However, now that he was rich again, he naturally had to get it constructed as soon as possible. That won't be a problem. The construction fee will be 20,000 gold, the senior administrator said, nodding after confirming that there was nothing wrong with the design Shifeng presented. Shifeng then took out 20,000 gold and handed the sum over to the senior administrator. After Shifeng completed the transaction, a system notification suddenly entered his ears. Chapter 1832, 3 Great Trading Firms. System, congratulations. You are the first player to have constructed a transportation firm. Rewarding 1 silver Twin Lions trading firm token. The system announcement repeated 3 times, the system's emotionless voice echoing in Shifeng's ears. Upon hearing these words, Shifeng fell into a daze that lasted for a long time. A silver Twin Lions token? Shifeng stared in shock at the silver token in his hand. Carved on this circular silver token was the image of 2 lions. There were also golden divine runes etched along its rim. It radiated an extremely ancient aura, obviously having existed for a very long time. Lord Protector, congratulations on obtaining this Twin Lions trading firm token. You are now a silver VIP of the Twin Lions trading firm, one of God's domain's 3 most ancient trading firms. It is very difficult to become one of the trading firm's VIPs. This token will be of great help to you when you are doing business or transporting goods. Lord Protector, please make sure to keep the token secure. You will not be given a new one if you lose it, the NPC senior administrator explained. However, at this point, Shifeng wasn't even listening to the NPC's explanation anymore. After all, he had a clearer understanding of the value of the Twin Lions trading firm's token than even the NPC administrator, having long familiarity with the ability and influence of the trading firm. The Twin Lions trading firm was one of the oldest trading firms extant in God's domain. Its origins were unknown. However, rumor had it that the Twin Lions trading firm had a hand in the establishment of the famous War God's Temple. Although the Twin Lions trading firm currently did not possess as extensive an influence as the War God's Temple, whose influence spanned the entire continent of God's domain, it was still more influential than an ordinary empire. Only the 4 great empires of God's domain could possibly rival the trading firm in influence. Meanwhile, to guilds, the Twin Lions trading firm was much more important than even the 4 great empires. In fact, the trading firm's importance to guilds surpassed the War God's temples. This distinction was because the Twin Lions trading firm's trade routes covered over half of the entire continent. Anyone ferrying non-bag space items would prefer to use the trade routes of the trading firm, as these were much safer than the trade routes operated by players. Aside from the greater danger, player-operated trade routes were far less efficient. By using the Twin Lions trading firm's trade routes, one could save more than half the travel time they would normally need when using a player-operated trade route. However, getting to utilize the Twin Lions trading firm's trade routes was not an easy task. One had to be a member of the Twin Lions trading firm. In other words, they needed to obtain one of the trading firm's tokens. Only then could they transport goods through the trading firm's trade routes. Hence, the various large guilds and merchant players in the past all sought to join the Twin Lions trading firm. Of course, the benefits and treatment one received depended on one's status in the Twin Lions trading firm. VIPs not only got more discounts but also had access to trade routes that were normally not open to lower-ranking members. This was especially true for trade routes in neutral maps. In addition, higher-ranking members also had the privilege of hiring NPC escorts from the Twin Lions trading firm. For example, in the past, due to Shadow's low ranking in the Twin Lions trading firm, Shifeng had no choice but to lead the guild's delivery runs himself. As a result, they frequently came under attack from NPC bandits. Had Shadow's ranking been enough in the Twin Lions trading firm to hire NPC escorts to serve as a deterrence, the guild's caravans wouldn't have come under attack so frequently. In the Twin Lions trading firm, the token one held represented their rank in the trading firm. From lowest to highest, the ranks were common, bronze, silver, gold, and elder. Although there were only 5 ranks, even the lowest common token was extremely difficult to obtain. On the market, a common Twin Lions token had been worth around 10,000 gold. Even so, nobody who had a token would be willing to sell it. One could easily imagine the difficulty of acquiring a common token. In addition, the Twin Lions trading firm acknowledged only the token and not its owner. There was no way to upgrade a token's rank. The number of tokens distributed also had a limit, and the tokens would all drop upon death. Hence, many players and powers had sought to steal the tokens in the past. From what Shifeng knew, there were only 99 common tokens, 49 bronze tokens, 24 silver tokens, and 12 golden tokens in the game at any time. As for the elder token, he had never heard any information about it. However, he expected it to be limited to 10. With the billions of players in God's domain, this small number of tokens simply wasn't enough to satisfy the demand. Hence, every token was extremely valuable, regardless of its rank. In the past, Shifeng had managed to get his hands on a common token only by a stroke of good luck. He had never dreamed of obtaining a silver token in this life. With this, transporting important items across neutral maps will no longer be a problem. Looking at the Twin Lions token, Shifeng cooked up many new plans. Non-bag space items were always worth a fortune. This was especially true for specialty products that were unique to a certain area. The main reason for their high value was the high cost of transporting them. However, many items important to players generally required the use of these materials. Moreover, as players reached higher levels, the development of guild towns and cities would also start to require more and more non-bag space items. In addition, some special weapons and tools would necessitate the use of non-bag space items. Hence, the Twin Lions trading firm had been extremely popular among the various large guilds and merchant players. Now that Shifeng had a silver token, he would have no problem traveling across many neutral maps. He could also use these specialty non-bag space items to make a fortune. In addition, the Twin Lions trading firm would hold an auction once a month. The standard of this auction far surpassed any auction hosted by players and empires. One could say that the Twin Lions trading firm's auction was the highest standard auction in the entire God's domain. In the past, even legendary items had appeared in the auction, as well as fragmented legendary items in significant quantities. As for epic items, they were no different from commonplace items in the auction. In the past, every Twin Lions trading firm auction was a time for the various large guilds to increase their combat power. However, participating in the auction was not easy. At the very minimum, one needed to possess a common token. Depending on the rank of one's token, the number of people one could bring into the auction would differ. The common token allowed only one person entry into the auction venue, whereas the bronze token allowed 2 people, the silver token allowed 3, and the gold token allowed 5. As for the elder token, as nobody had ever obtained one even after 10 years had passed in God's domain, nobody knew how many people the token allowed entry to. It seems I can have Aqua start tasking some people with transporting the diamond wood we have stockpiled to the Apocalypse Empire's shipyard. Shifeng smiled as he looked at the silver token. Previously, as he had been worried about having insufficient strength to protect the shipment, he had not bothered transporting the diamond wood they collected. Now that he had a silver token, he could borrow the Twin Lions trading firm's power. By spending a little money, he could easily send the stockpile of diamond wood over to the Apocalypse Empire. Although he didn't have a bronze speedboat design right now, using diamond wood to construct advanced speedboats would still increase the attributes of the speedboat somewhat. Afterward, Shifeng contacted Aqua Rose and had her dispatch some guild experts to make the necessary preparations. As for himself, he returned to the Candlelight trading firm and started producing all-round devices. Although Cream Cocoa and Melancholic Smile could indeed produce enough all-round devices for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Unyielding Soul, he was also in dire need of the all-round devices himself, as he planned to head to the Flame Demon's Valley and activate the World Gate as soon as possible. Only with the help of the Philosopher's Hand could he increase the development speed of Candlelight's lifestyle players. The production of ships required a large number of master engineers, not to mention the production of the Hell Chariots and Guardian Puppets. Having just 2 or 3 master engineers simply wasn't enough. Meanwhile, over at Silverwing Town, the transportation firm's construction was just completed. The sudden appearance of the 3-story, stadium-sized building immediately caused a commotion among the players in the town. Chapter 1833, Gathering at Silverwing Town. The 3-story tall transportation firm was located close to Silverwing Town's main entrance. Meanwhile, 10 level 100 NPC guards stood before the entrance, one of which was a Tier 3 guard captain. The guard captain carried a great sword on his back and wore silver armor. Due to the strict atmosphere around him, players kept a wary distance from the transportation firm, only daring to glance at the building from far away. However, although players did not dare approach the building, one NPC merchant after another nonchalantly entered the firm. Large caravans also moved their goods into the building on a regular basis. After several minutes, the stadium-sized building was crowded with carriages and NPCs. Many players mustered their courage and entered the building after such a lively scene. Amazing! There are so many NPC merchants here. Upon entering the transportation firm's first-floor hall, the curious players immediately spotted many NPC merchants lined up at the front counter, handling some formalities. There were easily over 1,000 NPC merchants in the building, some of which had set up stalls in front of their parked carriages, selling a variety of precious items. The scene was simply dazzling. Meanwhile, the most eye-catching thing in the transportation firm had to be the gigantic crystal hovering in the center of the hall. The crystal displayed the transportation quests available today and their corresponding rewards. The quest difficulty and requirements were also listed. Players' jaws dropped after they inspected the colossal, translucent crystal in the hall. Delivery to Bronze Teeth Town, difficulty, 2-star. Requirement, Tier 2, must have completed 5 1-star quests. Remuneration, 3 gold, 300 contribution points, and 1 void magic gold. Recruiting 6 people. Delivery to Bronze Teeth Town, difficulty, 1-star. Requirement, level 50 or above. Remuneration, 80 silver, 50 contribution points, and 1 smart armor kit. Recruiting 10 people. Every quest offered tempting rewards. Many expert players drooled over the 2-star quests, in particular. At this stage of the game, many expert players wouldn't earn 3 gold even after a full day of grinding. Although the reward items might not be as valuable as the gold, they were also highly sought after. For example, void magic gold could be used to increase a weapon's sharpness and lower its durability consumption. However, void magic gold wasn't normally sold on the market. To the expert players present, the void magic gold was far more valuable than 3 gold coins. Naturally, the 3-star quest rewards even tempted players from the various major powers. 3-star quests actually awarded rare Tier 2 skill books upon completion. Even the various major powers experts lacked Tier 2 skills. Aside from purchasing such skills with legacy points, players could only obtain them by farming monsters for skill books. However, even the drop rate for Tier 1 skill books was extremely low, not to mention Tier 2 skill books. After everyone finished gawking at the quests on the giant crystal, they noticed an exchange counter. This exchange counter allowed players to spend the contribution points and coins they earned to purchase rare items the NPC merchants sold. The available rare items were impossible to purchase elsewhere. In fact, the NPC merchants even had epic items for sale. Upon seeing these items, the players in the hall immediately went into an uproar. Quick! Notify the guild leader. We must get those epic items before the other guilds. The members of the various major powers immediately contacted their respective guilds' upper echelons and notified them about the transportation firm. As for the independent players present inside the transportation firm, their eyes glowed with excitement upon seeing the item list. Epic items. Independent players only dreamed of obtaining such items, yet as long as they earned enough coins and contribution points, they could purchase these items. In other words, they now had the possibility of acquiring an epic item. For a time, news of the transportation firm spread like a plague throughout the Ore Empire and the neighboring countries. We can purchase epic items just by collecting enough contribution points from quests. There's no status restriction. In that case, our adventurer team can contend with the various large guilds for these epic items. The rewards for Silverwing Town's transportation quests are actually so bountiful. That's at least triple the amount we get from the usual transportation quests. We need to head to Silverwing Town to develop right this instant. Many adventurer teams and independent players decided to shift their base of operations to Silverwing Town. Setting aside the fact that they could earn more money by developing there, the fact that they could purchase top-tier weapons and equipment was the final push. For a time, players swarmed towards Silverwing Town. Vice Guild Leader, what should we do? The number of players trying to enter the town has suddenly increased by more than 200,000. By the looks of it, even more people will show up later. However, we've already reached the town's entry limit of 1,500,000 players, and the players waiting outside are making a huge fuss, Yaya, Aqua Rose's assistant, said as she ran up to Aqua Rose, who was currently swamped with work. I understand. Temporarily increase the town's entry limit to 1,800,000, Aqua Rose said, nodding as she pinched the bridge of her nose. Due to the transportation firm's appearance, many merchant players had contacted her, expressing their interest in renting a shop in Silverwing Town long-term. Some top adventurer teams had even asked to garrison in Silverwing Town. These top adventurer teams had declared their willingness to purchase private houses at a high price and sign a garrison agreement with Zero Wing. She never thought that Silverwing Town would become the focal point of the Ore Empire and its several neighboring countries. This had all happened so suddenly, and she hadn't been prepared. Meanwhile, Shifeng, who currently forged all-round devices in the Candlelight trading firm, remained ignorant of the situation. He simply focused on forging and increased the pile of all-round devices on his table. After working for more than half a day, Shifeng received joyous news. Liang Jing, his temporary assistant, had finally come to a compromise with Xiao Yu and would officially join God's domain today. Moreover, she had already joined Zero Wing and used a guild transfer scroll to teleport to White River City's guild residence. To help her acclimate to God's domain, Shifeng decided to have her assist Melancholic Smile in managing White River City's Candlelight trading firm for the moment. This way, Melancholic Smile could somewhat relax. So, this is the Candlelight trading firm? Liang Jing, who wore a set of long, white robes and held a wooden staff, couldn't help but gape at the towering building before her. In her opinion, a virtual reality game was only a form of entertainment. However, after logging into God's domain, she discovered that this game was no different than reality. In fact, she felt that her senses in the game were much sharper than her senses in the real world. If not for the diamond markers and HP bars hovering above the players around her, she'd even have suspected that she had been transported into another world. Aside from God's domain's realism, the number of players she saw in the city also shocked her. She had never thought that White River City would have so many players. The city's commercial district where she currently stood was even livelier than Jinhai City's commercial district. Meanwhile, the most eye-catching building in the district actually belonged to Zero Wing. This was simply inconceivable. Are you Liang Jing, the person the guild leader mentioned? While Liang Jing tried to process the new information and environment, she noticed a mellow voice. Turning towards its origin, Liang Jing discovered a beautiful young woman in a luxurious dress. Upon hearing this woman greet Liang Jing, nearby players shot the new woman envious glances. What's going on? Liang Jing was even more confused upon noticing players' reactions. Chapter 1834, Frightening Zero Wing. Looking at the woman approaching her, Liang Jing could feel the weight of the surrounding players' gazes. The long line of players waiting to enter the Candlelight trading firm turned to look at her, as well. If these people were focused on the woman approaching her, she could, more or less, understand their reactions. After all, the woman before her was tall and elegant, with a face and temperament to match. It was only natural that such a graceful woman would attract attention. But these players were focused on her, not this woman. A moment ago, these people had ignored her, yet she had instantly become a sensation the moment this beautiful young woman had called out to her. The beauty greeting Liang Jing was none other than Melancholic Smile. According to Shi Feng, he had found her a capable assistant, although her guild leader had asked that she show Liang Jing the ropes first. "Hello, I am Melancholic Smile. I will be helping you learn about the Candlelight trading firm and all there is to know about our business. If there is anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me." Melancholic Smile introduced herself. After Melancholic Smile's introduction, the nearby players went into an uproar. Crap! Who is that woman? Melancholic Smile actually came out to greet her? Could she be some sort of master lifestyle player? That can't be it. She's only level 10, and she isn't wearing a lifestyle insignia. She's definitely a newbie, but she must be someone important if Melancholic came to welcome her personally. Maybe she is the heiress of some major corporation, here to visit the Candlelight trading firm? For a time, the lifestyle players seeking to join the Candlelight trading firm quietly discussed Liang Jing's identity, glancing at the woman with envy and admiration. Not only was Melancholic Smile the Candlelight trading firm's manager, but she was also a master forger. She was one of Zero Wing's core upper echelons. Rumors had it that many superpowers and major corporations had even offered astronomical prices to hire her, but she had rejected them all. Melancholic Smile was an idol to lifestyle players like them. Not only was she very beautiful, but her forging standards also ranked at the apex of God's domain. They all dreamed of a life like the one Melancholic Smile enjoyed. That was also the reason that so many lifestyle players had come from neighboring kingdoms to join Candlelight. Meanwhile, overhearing the nearby lifestyle players' discussions, Liang Jing was inwardly shocked as she examined the player before her. She never thought that this woman held such a high position. She also blushed with embarrassment as she heard the players guess her identity. The heiress of a major corporation? She was only the assistant of the Big Dipper Group's chairman. She was insignificant compared to an heiress. After Melancholic Smile and Liang Jing introduced themselves, they entered the Candlelight trading firm. White River City's Candlelight trading firm was the sole 3-star shop in Star Moon Kingdom. When Liang Jing entered the building, she felt as if she had stepped into a modern shopping mall. Only, the shop had magical elements, unlike a mall in the real world. Customers crowded the first-floor hall, stupefying Liang Jing. She hadn't imagined that a shop in God's domain could be so lively. Melancholic Smile simply smiled at Liang Jing's reaction before leading the new recruit to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor and up were not open to the public, only Candlelight's members had access. Currently, the Candlelight trading firm has over 20,000 lifestyle players. They're split across multiple branches. Among them, over 4,000 have officially signed a contract to become internal members. You could say that Candlelight is the bona fide #1 trading firm throughout Star Moon Kingdom. This shop alone houses a little over 2,000 lifestyle players. In the future, you will manage this shop and its employees, Melancholic Smile explained as she gestured to the various workshops, which contained Candlelight's lifestyle players hard at work. Although you won't have to manage a lot of people at first, once you get used to the job and perform well, I'll have you take over managing Silverwing Town. Things are getting hectic in Silverwing right now. We just increased the entry limit to 1,800,000 people. We'll have to increase this number slowly in the future, so we have a lot to do. As Liang Jing listened to Melancholic Smile's explanation, she wondered if she had heard wrong. Candlelight had over 20,000 employees? Moreover, over 4,000 were officially contracted to the trading firm? In other words, there were over 4,000 players working as full-time employees for Candlelight. This was several times more than the Big Dipper Group's employees. Later, she'd even have to manage a town with 1,800,000 players. This was simply madness. If the situation was as Melancholic Smile had described, as the assistant of the Big Dipper Group's chairman, she was certain that Zero Wing was far wealthier than the Big Dipper Group. There was simply no comparing the two. She had always wondered why Shifeng acted so nonchalantly towards the Big Dipper Dojo's offers. It had offered a salary and benefits that countless people dreamed of, yet Shifeng had settled for a temporary position, focusing his efforts on God's domain. Now, she finally understood. It turned out that the Big Dipper Group's offers, which it had deemed quite generous, were little more than a farce to Shifeng. He had only been working for the Big Dipper as a pastime. Meanwhile, Shifeng had offered her a position with Zero Wing in God's domain because he had appreciated her management skills, and Xiao Yu wanted to use the opportunity to learn more about Shifeng's affairs. Whether she chose to work for the Big Dipper Group or Zero Wing Workshop in the future would be up to her. However, right now, she had no idea how she was supposed to report her discoveries to Chairman Xiao. What Liang Jing did not know was that Silverwing Town wasn't Zero Wing's most populated territory. Rather, Starmoon Kingdom's Zero Wing City saw far more traffic with a player population several times higher than Silverwing Town. Elsewhere, Shifeng, ignorant of Liang Jing's thoughts, still focused on forging all-round devices. Finally, after a full day of work, he had crafted over 100 all-round devices. He had also made quite a few standard level 50 fine gold and dark gold weapons. Thanks to all the EXP from forging, he had finally reached level 68. Although he had killed plenty of monsters when setting up the trade route, due to the NPC's participation, the EXP reward had been significantly reduced. He had only received a lot of EXP after he completed the quest. Even so, it hadn't been enough to push him to level 68. However, compared to his recent level up, the Philosopher's Hand's ability truly surprised Shifeng. When he used the Philosopher's Soul to help guide him in forging level 50 fine gold and dark gold weapons, the designs he had obtained from Titan City, the finished products had ranged between level 50 and 55. It was a massive improvement. Although a standardized level 55 fine gold weapon was slightly weaker than level 55 fine gold equipment acquired from monsters, it was still considerably stronger than a level 50 fine gold weapon. This was also the case for standardized level 55 dark gold weapons. The highest leveled players in the various large guilds were currently level 55. Hence, trying to acquire level 55 weapons was extremely difficult. Currently, most of these level 55 experts still used level 50 fine gold weapons. If given the choice, these experts would definitely wield a standardized level 55 dark gold weapon. If he sold these standardized dark gold weapons in bulk, he could fetch a higher price than normal. Suddenly, Melancholic Smile contacted Shifeng and reported, "Guild leader, the representatives from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Unyielding Soul have arrived. They're waiting in the second floor VIP reception room." "Alright, I'll head over now." Nodding, Shifeng collected his forged items and headed to the reception room. Chapter 1835, Massive Profits Candlelight Trading Firm's VIP Reception Room. Currently, Phoenix Rain, Blue Phoenix, Unyielding Heart, and Mu Lingsha waited in the reception room. "Uncle Heart, are the items you mentioned really that effective?" Mu Lingsha asked worriedly. "The guild has employed various methods, but we still haven't made it into the Dark Battleground's inner region. Moreover, the Silent Water's corrosion is extremely powerful. Even the rare advanced toughness potion only extends our survival rate a little. We've shed all pretenses with the Starline Corporation already and are engaged in an all-out war with them. We can only spare a very limited amount of resources. If we spend so many magic crystals, and these items end up being useless, it'll be disastrous." When she had asked Unyielding Heart to lead a team in assisting Zero Wing, she had assumed that the guild only needed some help with a slightly difficult quest, yet when Unyielding Heart had returned, he had told her that Zero Wing had secured the Hell Mode Eclipse Throne's first clear. The report had left her flabbergasted. She had never realized that Zero Wing's main force was so powerful. Moreover, Unyielding Heart had praised Zero Wing's black flame. His praise was rare, even in Unyielding Soul. Unyielding Heart had gone on to mention that Zero Wing possessed some special tools that could help them deal with the Dark Battleground's severe environment. This revelation had further increased her shock. Truthfully, she wanted to believe Unyielding Heart's claim, but she couldn't bring herself to do so. Their guild had expended a lot of effort to reach the Dark Battleground's inner region, but every method they tried had been a failure. She had even worked herself to the bone to find a solution to this problem. Yet, Unyielding Heart had told her that Zero Wing had 2 items that could help their survival in the map. Moreover, Zero Wing could produce enough of these items for a 100-man team. "Miss Mu, you can rest assured," Unyielding Heart said with a bitter smile. Over the past few days, Mu Lingsha had repeatedly asked him the same question, yet no matter how many times he explained the situation, the young lady refused to believe him. However, it wasn't as if he couldn't understand her feelings. At this point, Unyielding Soul and Starlink, the Starline Corporation's guild, were engaged in a bitter war. As a result, Unyielding Soul spent a frightening amount of resources each day. Meanwhile, purchasing 100 all-round devices and 100 bottles of elven silver would cost them 40,000 magic crystals, and since Zero Wing had produced the items within 3 days, as per their agreement, Unyielding Soul had to pay an additional 5,000 magic crystals. For the guild, 45,000 magic crystals were by no means a small amount. If after paying so many magic crystals, the items were useless, they'd cry with regret. Mu Lingsha found it difficult to respond to Unyielding Heart's comment. She could only hope these items would be as helpful as he claimed. Big Sis Rain, Unyielding Soul's representatives, seemed worried about something. "Do you think they plan on backing out of the purchase?" Blue Phoenix asked as she eyed Mu Lingsha's worried expression. Giggling, she continued, "If they do, we'll get to purchase their share as well. Then, we'll have a much easier time exploring the Sea of Death's inner islands." "Why would they possibly back out?" Phoenix Rain asked, chuckling. Unyielding Soul has fought several large-scale battles against Starlink in the Dark Knight Empire and desperately needs weapons, equipment, and war weapons. Both guilds are furiously fighting for the high-resource maps that yield weapons and equipment. If Unyielding Soul wishes to obtain these items, it'll have to farm high-resource maps with hostile environments. The guild will have a higher chance of securing the items in those maps. Unyielding Soul needs all-rounded devices and elven silver more than anything right now. It can't afford to back out this deal. Blue Phoenix saw the reasoning in her pavilion master's words. The more hostile a map's environment was, the more treasures it would have to offer. Take the Sea of Death, for example. After exploring the sea zone's dangerous islands, the various superpowers had acquired a significant harvest now. All of the various superpowers were organizing large, powerful teams to explore the Sea of Death. However, to explore the map's islands effectively, the superpowers would need items that could reduce the hostile environment's impact on their players. While acquiring a small number of such items was not a problem, acquiring them in bulk was almost impossible. If they could get their hands on the all-round devices and elven silver, even if they didn't use the items for themselves, they could earn impressive profits by reselling them. While both guilds' representatives quietly talked among themselves, the reception room's door swung open. Following which, a cloaked, middle-aged man entered the room, and the occupants fell silent when they saw him. "He is Black Flame?" Mu Lingsha was shocked when she looked at the new arrival. What a powerful aura! Shifeng radiated an extremely strong, violent aura. In Mu Lingsha's eyes, Shifeng felt like a primordial beast, rather than a player. What Mu Lingsha did not know was that the aura didn't belong to Shifeng. Instead, it radiated from the abyssal blade at his waist. The abyssal blade's aura could no longer be contained after Shifeng had upgraded it to level 50. Because of this, Shifeng had chosen to appear as Black Flame for this meeting. "Sorry for the long wait, I had some business to deal with," Shifeng apologized. "It's fine. We just arrived as well," Unyielding Heart said, chuckling. "Moreover, if it means we can obtain the all-round devices and elven silver, even a several-hour wait would be worth it." Phoenix Rain, who sat close to Unyielding Heart, could not help but smile when she heard the man's words. She hadn't expected Unyielding Heart to be so direct about his desire for the items. "All right, since everyone is here for these two, let's get straight to business," Shifeng said. He then took out the all-round devices and elven silver he had prepared and placed them on the table before him. "After working around the clock with my people, we forged a total of 400 all-round devices and 450 bottles of elven silver. According to our previous agreement, 200 of each item will go to the Phoenix Pavilion Master, while 100 of each item are reserved for Brother Heart. As for the 5,000 magic crystals we agreed on before, we'll just forget about that. I'd like to sell the remaining 100 all-round devices and 150 bottles of elven silver via a private auction. You may bid for these extras with coins. May I know your opinions about this arrangement?" "All right. I have no problems with that." Upon hearing that Shifeng had so many extra items, Phoenix Rain could not help but inwardly celebrate. "I don't have any arguments either." Unyielding Heart nodded in agreement. Only, he slightly regretted his previous decision. Had he known Zero Wing was capable of producing so many all-round devices and elven silver, he would have ordered more. However, when he considered his uncertainty about how useful the elven silver would be against the silent water, he dismissed his regret. Hearing the two players' agreement, Shifeng proceeded with fulfilling their previous arrangements. In the end, Shifeng received 80,000 magic crystals from Phoenix Rain and 40,000 magic crystals from Unyielding Heart. He then allowed both to bid for the additional all-round devices and elven silver, auctioning the items off in batches of 10. As the transaction could be completed using coins, both guilds bid on the items without issues. In the end, Phoenix Rain had purchased 80 all-round devices and 120 bottles of elven silver, while Unyielding Heart bought the rest. When comparing foundations, Unyielding Soul was definitely superior to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. However, Unyielding Soul didn't have as much financial freedom due to its war with Starlink. Meanwhile, Phoenix Rain had earned quite a bit from the authority she wielded on Thunder Island and the harvests from the Sea of Death. Hence, in terms of financial strength, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was currently stronger than Unyielding Soul. After selling the extra items, Shifeng had made over 20,000 gold. Both super first-rate guilds were also quite satisfied with the outcome. As the representatives of both guilds were about to leave, "Since we've sold the all-round devices and elven silver, let us start the auction for today's main course," Shifeng said, intentionally dragging out his statement. "Main course? You have something even better than the all-round devices and elven silver?" Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart gave Shifeng confused looks. How could he possibly have something more valuable than the two items? "Correct." Shifeng then began to pull the standardized level 55 dark gold weapons from his bag, putting them on display before his guests. Chapter 1836, Arming Teams. The one-handed saber Shifeng placed on the table looked quite modest, like a very ordinary weapon, yet it radiated the glow unique to dark gold weapons. A dark gold weapon that can be used up to level 55? When Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart looked at the dark gold weapon, they could not help their confusion. In terms of attributes, it was only slightly better than a level 50 dark gold weapon. While it might be very tempting to ordinary expert players, to guild upper echelon like themselves, it was nothing special. Although a level 55 dark gold weapon was indeed very valuable, in terms of usefulness, there was simply no comparison between it and the all-round device or elven silver. Not to mention, the level 55 dark gold weapon Shifeng just took out did not possess any special traits. It neither added any resistances nor granted extraordinarily high attributes. Hence, they found it truly confusing that Shifeng was treating this weapon as the finale item. Just as Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart were wondering what Shifeng's intention was by taking out such a plain dark gold weapon, Shifeng took out another weapon from his bag and placed it on the table. This time, it wasn't a saber but a great sword, instead. "He's selling two items?" Blue Phoenix, who was watching from the side, was also baffled by this situation. Let alone 2 level 55 dark gold weapons. Even 2 epic weapons wouldn't be enough to tempt representatives of super first-rate guilds like Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart. However, just as Blue Phoenix was having such thoughts, Shifeng proceeded to take out another weapon from his bag. Moreover, he showed no signs of stopping, even after revealing the third weapon. 3. 5. 8. By the time 10 level 55 dark gold weapons were laid out on the table, Phoenix Rain's and Unyielding Heart's expressions had changed. While level 55 dark gold weapons were not that easy to obtain, with the current strength Zero Wing's main force possessed, they understood that Zero Wing definitely could acquire some. If it were only 2 or 3 dark gold weapons, they wouldn't have felt particularly surprised by the situation. However, having 10 level 55 dark gold weapons was an entirely different story. As you can imagine, I am able to obtain quite a number of these level 55 dark gold weapons. These 10 articles are merely samples for you to see. What do you think of these weapons? Shifeng asked, smiling as he looked at the 2 people wearing serious expressions before him. Currently, he had produced only 10 level 55 dark gold weapons. It wasn't that he did not wish to produce more, but that he lacked the materials to do so. While the materials needed to produce these weapons were not very rare and were available in the market, they were not usually sold in large quantities. Collecting a sufficient amount would take considerable time. This was also the reason why the various large guilds that could produce dark gold weapons made only a very limited quantity. In the current God's domain, having 10 level 55 dark gold weapons was already a staggering feat. You still have more of these? Phoenix Rain asked, pleasantly surprised. May I know how many more of these weapons Brother Black Flame has? Unyielding Heart asked hurriedly. A single level 55 dark gold weapon was indeed nothing significant to them because one weapon could improve the combat power of only one player. The improvement would be minimal. However, after reaching a certain quantity, these level 55 dark gold weapons would have much more of an impact. With enough of these weapons, one could elevate the combat power of a team to a whole new level. Meanwhile, this increase in combat power would be very useful when a team was raiding field bosses. Not many, Shifeng said. Raising 3 fingers, he added, I only have enough to equip a 300-man team. May I know if the 2 of you are interested in this transaction? Guild leader Black Flame, you're not joking, right? Enough to equip a 300-man team? Doesn't that mean you have over 100 level 55 dark gold weapons? Mu Lingsha, who sat at a side, asked, her face twitching involuntarily. The weapons placed on the table were all meant for physical classes, none were for magical classes. Even so, trying to equip every physical class in a 300-man team would still require over 100 weapons. Currently, she wasn't even certain whether the various superpowers possessed level 55 dark gold weapons. At the very least, Unyielding Soul definitely did not. No matter how she looked at it, she simply could not accept that Zero Wing could actually take out over 100 of these weapons. Meanwhile, Phoenix Rain's and Unyielding Heart's lips also twitched slightly when they heard Shifeng's words. This revelation truly came as a shock to them. With so many level 55 dark gold weapons, they could construct 3 very powerful 100-man teams. So long as each team had sufficient tier 2 players, even raiding level 50, 100-man team dungeons wouldn't be a problem. If they had 3 teams capable of consistently raiding level 50, 100-man team dungeons, their guild's income of weapons and equipment would increase drastically. They could even acquire level 50 dungeon set equipment within one cooldown cycle. May I know how Brother Black Flame plans on selling these weapons? Unyielding Heart asked, a passionate flame burning in his eyes. Right, Guild Leader Black Flame, how do you plan on selling these weapons? Phoenix Rain asked in a serious tone as well. She could not help but admit that this finale item was truly a finale among finales. After all, while the all-round devices and Elven Silver only provided them with a chance of obtaining top-tier weapons and equipment, placed right before them was a guarantee of doing so. Simple. Shifeng then took out 2 sets of documents listing some rare materials and handed these to the 2 people before him. using the listed materials as the standard and 300 sets of them as one batch. So long as you collect one batch of materials, you may purchase 40 weapons. We'll use these 300 sets of materials as the starting bid. You can then increase the price using magic crystals or coins, with each increment being worth no less than 100 gold. After reading the list of materials Shifeng provided, Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart gasped involuntarily. Although the materials listed were not particularly rare, one full set was already worth quite a lot. Yet, now, they needed 300 sets just to qualify to participate in the auction. Shifeng's asking price truly wasn't low. I don't have any problems here, Phoenix Rain said, nodding. A first-rate guild would indeed face great difficulty collecting 300 sets of the listed materials. It wasn't a matter of money but of the rarity of the materials. With the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's huge sphere of influence, however, collecting 300 sets within a short period was still doable. Deal. Unyielding Heart was also determined to go through with this transaction. So long as he could obtain 40 of these level 55 dark gold weapons, he would have the confidence to lead his guild's main force to obtain the first clear of a level 50, 100-man team dungeon. Moreover, in terms of ability to collect resources, his side was much stronger than Phoenix Rain's. After all, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was an alliance of two guilds. Phoenix Rain could mobilize only half of the guild's resources at most. Since both of you are fine with this, let us start the auction now, then. Upon seeing that both sides found his proposal acceptable, Shifeng grew even more joyful. Truthfully, even he felt that the amount of materials he was asking for was a little excessive, and he expected that the two guilds might balk at the condition. After all, even the current Zero Wing wasn't capable of collecting 300 sets of the materials at short notice. However, when he thought about how both the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Unyielding Soul were super first-rate guilds, he concluded that acquiring 300 sets of the materials shouldn't be impossible for them, although it would hurt their pockets slightly. By setting such a high price in the first place, so long as he could acquire 300 sets of the materials required, given his production success rate, which was above 30%, he could instantly earn not only his cost but also quite an amount of materials to arm Zero Wing. Now, however, it would seem that he had somewhat underestimated the foundations of the two super first-rate guilds. After all, the two representatives before him didn't even frown as they agreed to his proposal. Apparently, they were more than capable of acquiring over 300 sets of the materials. Chapter 1837, Titan Guard Upgraded. As Shifeng started the auction, Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart placed bids in a frenzy without any concern for each other. 2,000 gold. 3,000 gold. 5,000 gold. Whether Phoenix Rain or Unyielding Heart won the items, 40 level 55 dark gold weapons would serve a great purpose. These weapons were of the utmost importance to their respective guilds' development. Naturally, they wouldn't hold back. Rather than increasing the bid in 100 gold increments, they increased it by 1,000 gold increments. In just a few minutes, the price had reached 24,000 gold with Unyielding Heart's bid. Including the cost of the materials, the total value of his offer was far more than what these 40 dark gold weapons were worth. However, Unyielding Heart did not care. Even Mu Lingsha had hinted that Unyielding Heart had to acquire the weapons regardless of the cost. Their guild currently competed with Starlink to obtain the first clear of a level 50, 100-man team dungeon. Both guilds had already reached the final boss in their respective dungeons, and these weapons would ensure Unyielding Soul's victory. Even if they had to spend a little more coins than expected, they could easily earn back the cost. 30,000 gold. Phoenix Rain instantly raised the price by a significant margin. She had already acquired the all-round devices in Elven Silver, but if she had these dark gold weapons as well, capturing the Sea of Death's inner islands would become far easier. After competing for several more minutes, Phoenix Rain won the first batch of weapons for 40,000 gold and 300 sets of materials. Unyielding Heart then claimed the second batch for 43,000 gold and 300 sets of materials. Although he wanted to win the last batch as well, due to lack of funds and these weapons' ordinary nature, he didn't go all out in the bidding. As a result, Phoenix Rain won the third batch of weapons for 41,000 gold and 300 sets of materials. Super first-rate guilds really are rich. After Shi Feng signed a contract with both sides, joy filled his heart, although he didn't show it. He had to admit that becoming a master forger really was beneficial. Just by selling 3 batches of standardized dark gold weapons, he had earned 124,000 gold and 900 sets of materials. This price far exceeded his initial expectations. Now, he had the money to construct the airport and repair the secret stone forest, in addition to enough materials to arm Zero Wing's members. Had he sold these weapons in single units or to small guilds, he would never have gotten such a good price. However, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Unyielding Soul couldn't collect the required materials as easily as Shi Feng had suspected either. This was especially true for Phoenix Rain, who would need roughly 1 day to collect all 300 sets. Unyielding Heart similarly needed a little time to collect all the materials. Shi Feng could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. He could only start crafting the weapons after he obtained the materials, and if the 2 guilds paid him in one go, he wouldn't have their purchased items ready. Hence, as a compromise, Shi Feng had asked both guilds pay a portion of the required materials as a down payment. Only after they brought the remaining materials and funds would he hand over the weapons. With this compromise, not only would he have materials to produce the weapons, but the 2 guilds would also have extra time to collect the remaining materials. Neither Phoenix Rain nor Unyielding Heart had any issues with this arrangement. They hadn't brought enough money for the purchases, to begin with, so it was expected that Shi Feng ask for a down payment. Doing so would also ensure that Zero Wing couldn't sell the 120 dark gold weapons to anyone else. Neither Phoenix Rain nor Unyielding Heart had suspected that Zero Wing had crafted these weapons. They had assumed that the guild had acquired the items from farming monsters. Since their guilds didn't have the full payments ready, a down payment was understandable. Phoenix Rain and Unyielding Heart had their subordinates deliver the agreed-upon down payment, which was 30% of the full amount. In return, both guilds would be granted a full day to collect the remaining funds and materials. When the 270 sets of materials were delivered, Shi Feng recruited Melancholic Smile and Cream Cocoa to help him craft the weapons. Although standardized level 55 dark gold weapons required a lot of time to produce, with 3 master forgers working around the clock and the Philosopher's Hand's guidance, it took them no time at all to complete the 120 weapons. After less than half a day, the 3 had used all 270 sets of materials and produced 114 weapons. Including the original 10 Shi Feng had made, they had a total of 124 level 55 dark gold weapons now. Once the weapons had been forged, Shi Feng left the transactions follow-up work to Melancholic Smile. He then contacted Aqua Rose and had her gather 20 main force members. He planned to head to the level 70 neutral map, Flame Demon's Valley. After his trade with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Unyielding Soul, Shi Feng realized that he had to prioritize unsealing the Philosopher's Hand fully. Partially unsealing the Philosopher's Hand had already been so profitable. If he could fully unseal it, he could nurture a large number of master lifestyle players. Not only would he be able to arm Silverwing Town to the teeth, but he'd also be able to fortify the Lost Town. Then, he wouldn't have to worry about the evil god's temple, which grew stronger with each passing day in the Orc Empire. He wouldn't have to worry about Blackwater either. He could definitely afford a battle of attribution with both the evil god's temple and Blackwater simultaneously. After all, war was a competition of wealth and resources. Thinking up to this point, Shi Feng felt even greater need to head to the Flame Demon's Valley. In less than half an hour, Aqua Rose had gathered Cola, Fire Dance, Violet Cloud, and the other core upper echelons. As the group approached the guild's meeting room, they chatted and discussed the recent challengers they had faced in Silverwing Town's battle arena. After Shi Feng had set the battle arena's new rules, quite a few famous experts from the neighboring kingdoms and empires visited Silverwing Town to challenge Zero Wing's guild leader. Some experts had also visited the town purely to spar with Zero Wing's experts. The battle arena's popularity in Silverwing Town had skyrocketed, and it was now even more popular than the battle arena in Zero Wing City. Meanwhile, Cola and the others' arrival in White River City's guild hall had caused a commotion among the other guild members. Now that I'm so close to them, I can really feel how powerful our guild's main force members are. Commander Fire Dance is especially powerful. Recently, I've heard that of all the challenges she accepted, she won every single one of them. I've even heard that she defeated the 5th-ranked assassin in the Black Dragon Empire. Commander Fire Dance has a 3-digit winning streak. That's right. I've also heard that on the latest issue of the God's Domain Experts list, Commander Fire Dance ranks as the 319th expert thanks to her excellent battle records. But I still think that she hasn't revealed all of her strength yet. Her rank will definitely climb in the future. That's only natural. However, the current God's Domain ranking list has changed. Now, if you want to earn a spot on the list or improve your rank, you have to be strong enough and have a dazzling battle record. I wonder when I'll become a main force member. I really want to train directly under Commander Fire Dance. The guild holds a qualifying tournament once a month. You can participate as long as you become a core member. Right. I'll work hard to become a core member first. As the players in the guild hall talked about Fire Dance and the other main force members of the guild, a desire to join Zero Wing's main force overwhelmed them. Meanwhile, Shifeng, who had hidden his appearance under a black cloak, couldn't help but chuckle as he overheard the various conversations. He then made his way toward the guild hall's meeting room. Guild leader, are we going on a major operation this time? Cola asked eagerly after Shifeng entered the room. He had improved significantly in the battle arena lately and itched to display his new strength. Of course. However, we have to replace your equipment first, Shifeng said, nodding. Replace my equipment? Cola was confused. He currently wore the Dark Corrosion set, the best available Dark Gold set equipment in the game right now, and quite a few of his other pieces were epic rank. He didn't understand what Shifeng wanted to replace. Give me your shield first, Shifeng said. Shield? Cola revealed an excited expression as he guessed, could it be? That's right. We didn't have enough magic crystals before, but we do now, Shifeng said, nodding. Cola eagerly handed his Titan Guard to Shifeng, anticipation filling his eyes. Although he had been saving his own magic crystals, it would take him forever to collect 100,000 on his own. Moreover, the guild always needed magic crystals, making it almost impossible for him to upgrade his shield. After Shifeng received the Titan Guard, he immediately chose to upgrade it. Chapter 1838, Fragmented Legendary Shield's Hidden Effect Inside the Resplendent Meeting Room. After Shifeng clicked to upgrade the Titan Guard, the shield began to glow with a brilliant light that forced the players in the room to close their eyes. By the time everyone reopened their eyes, they felt a horrific pressure wash over them. Instinctively, these players took up a defensive stance. What's going on? What's with this powerful aura? Could it be from that shield? This can't be possible, right? This aura is as intense as that of a mythic monster. All of these players were experts, and they had experienced countless life-or-death battles. They had long since developed senses that surpassed that of a wild beast. If they hadn't known that they were absolutely safe in this meeting room, they would have pulled out their weapons and prepared for combat. Once the intensity of the Titan Guard's aura reached its peak, it began to fade. So, this is a fragmented legendary shield? Shifeng was inwardly shocked as he felt the Titan Guard become lighter than it had been. Although the shield had never been particularly heavy, holding it still restricted his movement. Now, however, the Titan Guard was as light as a feather. It felt as if the cold, tough metallic frame were merely an illusion. The shield's hidden effect was truly frightening. It was common knowledge in God's domain that shields were so large so the MTs could effectively block a boss's attacks. In return, the shields were considerably heavy. Of course, there were lighter shields, such as wooden or steel bucklers. Although a buckler was easier to use and gave MTs more freedom of movement, its flaws were apparent with a buckler's small size, blocking attacks properly was strenuous. This was especially true during a high-speed fight. Hence, the various large guilds' MTs usually used large, heavy shields. However, now, not only did the Titan Guard possess a huge defensive area, but it was also light. It was a dream shield for any MT. Moreover, compared to the Titan Guard's hidden effect, its new attributes were truly frightening. Titan Guard, Shield, Fragmented Legendary Rank. Minimum Equipment Level, 50 Equipment Requirement, Strength 1400 Attributes adjust according to user's level. Defense plus 9450, Level 50. Block Rate, 39%. Strength plus 245, Endurance plus 224, Agility plus 190 Defense Skill plus 3 levels Reaction Ability plus 2. Strength increased by 35%, Agility increased by 30%, and Endurance increased by 30%. Ignore levels plus 20. All item level requirements reduced by 5 levels. When equipped, all magic damage received reduced by 50%. Reaction speed increased by 20%. Paralysis effects reduced by 40%. Frontal damage received reduced by 30%. All resistances increased by 30%. Additional passive skill 1 dash. Guardian Shield automatically generates a layer of guardian energy, which can block an attack and absorb a portion of the attack strength to recover user's stamina every 10 seconds. Additional passive skill 2 dash. Iron Wall reduces the impact from incoming attacks by 50%. If attacks are of a lower tier than user, reduces damage by 70%. If attacks are of the same or higher tier than user, reduces damage by 30%. Additional active skill 1 dash. Titan's Heart generates 3 layers of protective energy that absorbs damage equivalent to 10 times of wielder's maximum HP, increases physique by 30%, reaction speed by 20%, and movement speed by 20% for 45 seconds. During this period, battle recovery improved by 800%, and healing received increased by 100%. Cooldown, 5 minutes. Additional active skill 2 dash. Titan's Will becomes immune to all control effects. Reduces all damage received by 95% and weakens negative effects by 90%. Increases attack speed by 100% and movement speed by 30%. Starting movement speed set at 80% of maximum movement speed. Duration, 30 seconds. Cooldown, 3 minutes. Cannot stack with other defensive skills. Additional active skill 3 dash. Titan's Domain, every non-friendly target within a 100-yard radius will increase wielder's basic attributes by 2%, reduces damage received by 1%, and heals wielder by 0.1% HP every second. Duration, 1 minute. Cooldown, 2 hours. Maximum number of targets, 100. With these attributes, an ordinary MT could immediately become a peak MT by equipping the Titan Guard. Guild Leader, how are the attributes? Kola asked excitedly. Take a look for yourself, Shifeng said, chuckling. He then passed the Titan Guard back to Kola. When Kola received the Titan Guard, he noticed the change to the shield's weight. When he saw the shield's attributes, even his breathing became harsh. Guild Leader, can we go find a mythic boss? Kola asked, staring at Shifeng with desire in his eyes. He was like a swordsman that had just acquired a treasured sword and was eager to test out his new weapon. Kola had worn the best equipment in God's domain. Even while wielding the epic-ranked Titan Guard, he could tank a mythic monster of the same level. Now that Titan Guard had been upgraded, he felt that he could face a mythic monster head-on. Of course, he knew that was a misconception. After all, a mythic monster was still a mythic monster. Although he couldn't face a mythic monster in a direct confrontation, he was confident of tanking a mythic monster by himself. Whether or not he could kill the monster would depend on his team's DPS. Relax. You'll have plenty of opportunities later, Shifeng assured his guildmate, smiling. Shifeng had already been roughly 50% certain that he could complete his quest in the Flame Demon's Valley, but with the fragmented legendary rank Titan Guard, his success rate had risen to 80% at the minimum. Following which, Shifeng had everyone switch to fire resistance equipment. He also allocated several all-round devices, Elven Silver, and the master-ranked fire resistance potion, which Silent Wonder had crafted. His teammates were confused. After equipping the fire resistance equipment, they had over 100 points in fire resistance. With so much, they shouldn't have any issues raiding the current large-scale team dungeons with high-temperature environments, yet Shifeng wanted them to use master fire resistance potions as well. Just where were they going? We're heading to the Flame Demon's Valley. Before we go, I have to remind you all that once we're in the valley, you must follow me closely. You absolutely must not get lost, Shifeng said. The Flame Demon's Valley? Isn't that a level 70+ danger zone? Aqua Rose, who was relatively familiar with God's Domain's maps, asked, shocked. The other players gasped when they heard Aqua Rose's question. While they weren't familiar with the Flame Demon's Valley, they knew what a danger zone was. The Black Dragon Empire had quite a few danger zones, as did Starmoon Kingdom. However, they had never heard of a guild successfully exploring either country's level 30 to 40 danger zones. At most, some guilds had played around in these danger zones' outer regions, but they didn't dare venture to the inner areas as death was almost certain upon entry. While part of the reason was the danger zone's extraordinarily harsh environments, the map's monsters were far more dangerous and extremely powerful. Not only did the danger zone's monsters have incredibly high basic attributes, but they also displayed very high combat standards. Even the weakest monster in danger zones had combat standards at the Trial Tower's 3rd floor. Meanwhile, as one ventured further into the zone, they'd face even stronger monsters. Near the inner regions, one would begin to encounter monsters that could reach the Trial Tower's 5th floor. Just thinking about a group of several hundred of such monsters would make any expert player shudder with fear. Yet, Shifeng had so casually mentioned that they were about to head to a level 70+ danger zone. If Aqua Rose hadn't told them about the Flame Demon's Valley, they would have assumed that they were going to some ordinary map based on Shifeng's tone. Relax. I've already investigated the area. Once we enter, you just need to follow my lead. Naturally, Shifeng knew what kind of horrors to expect in the Flame Demon's Valley. Danger zones are also blessed maps. They are the best places to refine your skills. Don't you want to grow stronger? Hearing Shifeng's explanation, everyone's eyes glowed with excitement and anticipation. While they had fought in Silverwing Town's battle arena, they had realized how vast God's domain truly was. Although many of the challengers hadn't been famous, their combat standards had been extraordinary. They had only managed to defeat these experts thanks to their superior equipment. Now that they had learned of a place where they could train and improve their abilities, of course, they wanted to visit it. Shifeng then led his team to Starmoon City before teleporting to the Flame Dragon Empire and again to one of its border towns. In the end, Shifeng used the 7 Luminaries Ring spatial gate to transport everyone across the remaining distance. After several hours, the team finally arrived before a valley that radiated waves of heat. Despite just standing at the valley's entrance, the area was hot enough to sting their skin. They did not even dare to imagine how high the temperature would be once they entered the valley. Guild leader, there seemed to be some people ahead, Minor Wind, who had used eagle eyes to observe their surroundings, suddenly reported as he pointed at the smoke-choked path ahead of them. People? Shifeng was astonished. Just getting to the Flame Demon's Valley was a difficult task for current players, not to mention fighting in such a harsh environment. Amazing. They're fighting a level 72 boss. And they're overwhelming it. Minor Wind exclaimed as he watched these players fight. Guild leader, some of our guild members are among them. Our guild? How? Shifeng was even more surprised to hear that his people were present. Following which, Minor Wind sent Shifeng a recording. Why are they here? As Shifeng watched the video, he discovered that there really were 0 wing members among the group. One of them was the elementalist Thoughtful Rain, and the other was the cleric Blue Bamboo. Both wore Zero Wing's 6-winged emblem. Currently, Thoughtful Rain was level 56, while Blue Bamboo was level 55. In terms of levels, these two could already contend with the various superpowers experts. Guild leader, what should we do? Aqua Rose asked. Normally, players would be on guard when they encountered others in the fields. After all, PKs were far from uncommon. If one were not careful, other players might even mug them. Furthermore, the unexpected party was engaged in a boss fight. They should be even more on guard. However, the Flame Demon's Valley only had one entrance. They couldn't just wait until the other party finished their raid. Moreover, they had already used their all-round devices, Elven Silver, and Master Fire Resistance potions, all of which had time limits. Let's wait and watch them for now, Shifeng said after giving the matter some thought. Chapter 1839, Neutral Races. Piles of large rocks decorated the scorching valley. Due to the constant screen of black smoke from within the valley, it was extremely difficult to examine the area with the naked eye. One would be fortunate if they could see up to 200 yards away. Even those with stronger physiques would only see an additional 20 or 30 yards. Only with skills like Eagle Eyes could players see up to 700 to 800 yards. While 700 or 800 yards might seem far, it was nothing to monsters in a level 70+ danger zone. These monsters could normally see up to 500 yards. Due to the level difference between these monsters and Zero Wings players, the monsters would have an easier time discovering them. If they were not careful, the monsters might even notice them from 800 yards away. Under Shifeng's lead, Zero Wings' team quickly moved to 200 yards away from Thoughtful Rain's team. Rocks and smoke obscured their position, so the other team would find it difficult to notice their presence. Isn't that Rain? Akka Rose was a little surprised as she watched Thoughtful Rain in battle. Her combat standard has improved by quite a bit. Thoughtful Rain dealt with 3 level 70 Lord-ranked Flame Demon guards, which moved alongside the boss monster, by herself, yet despite being outleveled and outnumbered, she faced the 3 lords on equal footing. She had thoroughly distracted the 3 flaming humanoids, allowing her teammates to focus on the boss. It was evident that her combat standard had already reached the refinement realm. However, Thoughtful Rain's teammates were even more surprising. None of these players were human, but foreign races. They were either half-beastmen with tiger ears and tails or half-elves with snowy white skin and pointed ears. What is going on? They're not actually human. Fire Dance exclaimed in shock. Every player on Zero Wings' team was shocked. As far as they knew, it was only possible to play a human when starting the game. There weren't any other races to choose from. Although they had encountered demon players and monster players, they were transformations. Technically, they still identified as human. However, the players on Thoughtful Rain's team were different. Their initial statistics showed that they weren't humans who could transform. Instead, their races identified as half-beastmen or half-elves. While Shifeng found the situation surprising as well, he did not find it particularly strange. Moreover, he finally understood why these other players were here. In God's domain, players were only allowed to play as human at the start of the game. There were no other racial options to choose from. However, after reaching level 30 and beyond, players could head to neutral races' habitats to complete conversion quests, becoming half-beastmen or half-elves. Although players would gain some racial abilities after becoming half-beastmen or half-elves, they'd abandon their identities as human and lose the protection of God's domain's ruling race. These players would find it far more difficult to move about on the continent and in the game. Not all kingdoms and empires permitted entry to neutral races. Only a very small number of countries did so. Even so, there were still many expert players that willingly converted. Neutral races' racial abilities were very tempting, and although these abilities wouldn't improve one's basic attributes directly, they would improve one's physical abilities. For example, half-beastmen generally gained more mobility, reaction speed, and perception. Half-beastmen were natural-born warriors. As for half-elves, they were magic's favored children. They would find magic-related tasks far easier than the other races. Both the half-beastmen and half-elf races also provided higher innate resistances. As a result, neutral players could survive and fight in maps with harsh environments, such as danger zones. In addition, like demon players, half-beastmen and half-elves were differentiated based on their bloodline purity. The purer one's bloodline, the stronger their racial abilities would be. In exchange for these benefits, not only would players face racial discrimination, but they'd also have a more difficult time upgrading their tiers. With the same combat standards and combat power, a human might be promoted to Tier 3, but a half-beastman or half-elf might only reach Tier 2. This was one of the main reasons that the human race oppressed the various neutral races. The human race had far more apex members than the neutral races. This was the law of equivalent exchange in God's domain, and it would be up to players to decide which path they would take. Those who were confident in their strength could definitely challenge the limitations neutral races faced. If they successfully broke past those limitations, they would no doubt become much stronger than human players of the same tier. After Shi Feng's team observed these neutral players for some time, the level 72 Great Lord ranked Flame Demon Commander's HP finally fell to 50%. Suddenly, a level 56, half-elf female elementalist shouted, "Melee players, pull back. Dodge the boss's team-wipe skill." Hearing this half-elf's command, the 9 half-beastman players fighting the Flame Demon Commander darted back from the boss. The 6-meter-tall Flame Demon Commander roared. Towering pillars of fire rose from the ground around it, melting the earth until it was molten lava. In the blink of an eye, the monster had formed a field of lava void of life. As the lava field continued to expand, the half-elf elementalist used a Tier 2 ice-type curse, Ice River. The lava then stilled, cooling until only frozen dirt remained. The Flame Demon Commander was also frozen, becoming an ice sculpture. "Attack with everything you've got," the half-elf elementalist shouted. With the half-elf elementalist's command, everyone bombarded the level 72 Great Lord with their most powerful attacks, decreasing the Great Lord's HP much faster than before. Frightening damages appeared above the Great Lord's head, one after another. Even the weakest attacks dealt over -10,000 damage, whereas the stronger blows dealt over -20,000 damage. In 2 short minutes, the Flame Demon Commander's HP fell to 30%. Once it did, the Great Lord's flaming body split into balls of flame, forming miniature Flame Demon Commanders. There were 50 miniature versions of the Great Lord, and each one had half of the Flame Demon Commander's basic attributes. They were still stronger than the Lord-ranked Flame Demon Guards, but they only had 600,000 HP each. Despite so many miniature Flame Demon Commanders, the half-beastmen and half-elves coped. Each player fought 2 or 3 copies and steadily shaved away the copy's HP. Once every miniature Flame Demon Commander had died, the flames gathered and merged once more. In the blink of an eye, the real Flame Demon Commander stood before the team. This time, however, it only had 10% of its HP remaining. It took less than 2 minutes for the team of neutral players to kill the Flame Demon Commander. As the Great Lord's flaming body dissipated, it left behind 5 items and flaming wreckage. Even a large guild's main force would be awed by how fast these players had dealt with a level 72 Great Lord. After watching these neutral players slay the boss, a voice called out to Shi Feng as he prepared to lead his team over to greet the other players. "You guys have been watching us fight for quite some time now. It's about time you show yourselves, don't you think?" the female half-elf elementalist asked coldly as she turned towards the rock Shi Feng and the others hid behind. "If you refuse, we'll come to you." Hearing the female half-elf statement, the other half-beastmen and half-elves turned towards Zero Wing's members with frosty expressions. Chapter 1840, No Need for Explanations. "Guild leader, it seems that we've been discovered," Aqua Rose said as she felt the killing intent radiating from the female half-elf elementalist. However, she did not reveal any signs of panic at being discovered. Instead, she calmly smiled and said, it also seems that the other party doesn't appreciate our good intentions. Forget it, since they don't, so be it, Shifeng said, shaking his head and laughing. Since they've spoken, let's head over. Kill stealing was a frequent occurrence in the fields. For such expert neutral players to come all the way to such a high-level danger zone, it was highly unlikely that they were just here to kill bosses. The only possibility he could think of was that these players were here for a high-ranked quest or had found a clue leading to one. Either way, they wouldn't like being discovered by other players. For example, Shifeng didn't want anyone to learn about his quest to unseal the Philosopher's hand. If they did, it would definitely cause trouble for him and his guild. Even now, he hadn't told anyone about the quest, not even his teammates. Any players that had an important quest or were trying to pick one up would conceal their activities. When discovered, they'd greet the offending players with hostility. It wouldn't even be surprising if these players attacked without warning. Hence, to avoid a misunderstanding, Shifeng had decided to maintain his distance, hiding his team throughout the raid. First, he wanted to avoid unnecessary combat. Second, Thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo were members of this neutral team. If Zero Wing's members suddenly showed up in this deserted area, the team would suspect Thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo of leaking information. Third, he didn't want others to know what Zero Wing was doing in the Flame Demon's Valley. However, the female half-elf elementalist's perception had exceeded Shifeng's expectations. He had never expected the woman to sense them 200 yards away despite her involvement in the intense battle. Even with his physique, he had barely seen the battle from this distance. The only other player that had seen the battle clearly was Minor Wind, who had activated Eagle Eyes. The other team's members had been busy with the fight, making it impossible to maintain Eagle Eyes. Hence, he hadn't expected to be discovered. However, since the team had noticed them, he had no choice but to reveal himself and see how events unfolded. Meanwhile, the half-beastmen and half-elves warily watched Shifeng's group approach. Guild leader, our tracks have been discovered. Should we kill them? A level 55, tier 2 berserker, a half-beastman in armor and wielding a white bone spear, asked, lacing his words with killing intent. Let's hear them out first. At the end of the day, this map is controlled by the human race. Moreover, we're already halfway through our quest. An interruption will only make it more difficult to complete, the female half-elf elementalist quietly responded. During the battle, she had discovered Shifeng's group, but she had remained silent about it to see what the other players intended at first. She had assumed that the team was here to steal, but even after the boss had died, Shifeng's group had been motionless. This proved that Shifeng's group had no designs on their loot. Even so, she couldn't let the other party follow them. After all, she had an important quest to complete. She could only expose the team and persuade them to leave. Of course, the decision had some risk. If negotiations soured, it was likely they would have to fight each other. If Shifeng's group insisted on following them, she would have to act. Her quest offered an extraordinary reward, which would qualitatively transform their guild. With this reward, it was entirely possible that their guild would instantly become as strong as a first-rate guild. As Shifeng's group increasingly closer to the female half-elf's team, Thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo, who were busy with 3 flame demon guards, stared with wide eyes. Rain, aren't they from our guild? Even Vice Guild Leader Aqua and Commander Fire Dance are here, Blue Bamboo said, stupefied. What should we do? Will Big Sis Melody suspect us of leaking information? The team they had joined on this expedition to the Flame Demon's Valley for a quest was extremely important to Melody, the guild leader of Ninth Heaven. This quest could even determine the life or death of Melody's guild. Hence, the woman had repeatedly forbidden them from telling anyone about the quest. Neither she nor Thoughtful Rain had spoken a word of their actions, yet their guild members had shown up here. At this point, avoiding a misunderstanding was almost impossible. We don't have a choice. We have to explain to Big Sis Melody and hope that she understands. But this is really a terrible coincidence, Thoughtful Rain, who kept the 3 flame demon guards busy, said helplessly. Unfortunately, as Shifeng's group approached, Melody and the other Ninth Heaven members noticed the six-winged emblem on these players' chests. A six-winged emblem? Isn't that the same one that Rain and Blue wear? Could they be Zero Wings members? Guild leader, we haven't said anything about this operation to anyone. How could Zero Wings members be here? Could it be? Did Rain and Blue? I knew outsiders couldn't. Suddenly, the half-beastmen and half-elves turned to thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo. Although they did not question the two directly, they watched the women with questioning gazes. Enough. I'll handle this. Melody roared as she shot her team members a chilling look. Let's find out why they're here first. Suddenly, this team of neutral players heard a deep voice. I am Black Flame, Zero Wings Guild leader. My team and I have a task in the Flame Demon's Valley. May I ask you to remain here for some time? Once we're done, we'll invite you in. Shifeng's voice was sonorous, echoing throughout the valley. Moreover, his aura was imposing. He felt like an ancient behemoth that had just woken. Damn it. It's true. When Melody's team members heard Shifeng's statement, they glared at thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo with indignation. Meanwhile, thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo were at a loss for words. They felt as if any explanation would be useless. Guild leader, since they've come to steal our quest, we should kill them, one of the Tier 2 berserkers said, exuding killing intent. I want to see just how powerful Zero Wing truly is. They had more or less heard of Zero Wing. This guild, which had started with nothing, had gone on to take control of Star Moon Kingdom. The guild was powerful enough to rival a first-rate guild, many times stronger than Ninth Heaven. However, they didn't think that they'd lose to Zero Wing's experts in terms of individual combat standards. They had the innate advantage of half-beastmen and half-elves, which would be particularly prominent in PvP. Waving to her teammates for quiet, Melody turned to thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo. In a low tone, she asked, I just want to ask one thing. Did you two leak our secret? Big sis Melody, we didn't say anything about this, thoughtful Rain insisted. Blue Bamboo nodded, repeated, firm resolution in her eyes. All right, I believe you, Melody said, revealing a gentle smile. She did not think that thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo would betray her trust. She then turned back to Shifeng and said, Hello, Guild Leader Black Flame. I am Melody, the Guild Leader of Ninth Heaven. May I know why we cannot enter? That way, I'll understand what I should do. Although there was no arrogance in Melody's voice, her voice held no deference either. Rather, her tone contained questions and threats. Depending on Shifeng's explanation, she wouldn't shy from a battle to the death or mutual destruction. Thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo tensed. The reason? Shifeng suddenly laughed. I'm afraid that you don't qualify to demand answers from me. Moreover, Zero Wing has never needed to explain itself. All you need to know is that you are not allowed entry for the moment. If you refuse, I'll simply treat you like the other monsters. Shifeng then swung Killing Ray at the Flame Demon guards chasing thoughtful Rain, tearing the space before him. A golden lightning bolt struck one of the three lords from over 60 yards away. The powerful Flame Demon guards then fell to one knee, the strike leaving a deep gash in their flesh. All three lords were heavily injured. Meanwhile, a damage of over -100,000 appeared above the Flame Demon guards' heads. Among the three lords, one even suffered nearly -300,000 damage. But compared to Shifeng's damage, what truly surprised the other guild leader was his ability to land his attack against the three moving lords without harming thoughtful Rain, despite being over 60 yards away. Moreover, Shifeng had sent his attack through the other team, striking the Flame Demon guards before they had been able to react. Shifeng's timing and skill usage were godlike. This stunned Melody and the Ninth Heaven members, who had planned to put up a fight. Without another word, Shifeng led his team into the Flame Demon's Valley, leaving the dumbstruck members of Ninth Heaven behind. Chapter 1841, Rich Danger Zone. Melody and her teammates only breathed a sigh of relief after Shifeng's group had vanished. Too strong. The strength and frightening aura Shifeng had displayed had been stifling. For a moment, they even thought that they had already died. So, that is Rain and Blue's guild? How could such a powerful expert exist? When Ninth Heaven's members turned to thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo, who still fought the 3 flame demon guards, they watched the women with shock and fear. They had never realized that Zero Wing was so powerful. The racial talents they were so proud of were little more than a joke before Shifeng. Even thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo, who had thought that they understood their own guild, couldn't help but gape after witnessing Shifeng's attack. Not only had Shifeng's single attack alleviated the pressure they faced, but he had also shocked Ninth Heaven's experts, deterring them from attacking. Among the Ninth Heaven experts present, quite a few were even stronger than the two of them. This was especially true for Melody. Melody wore 3 pieces of epic equipment and had stronger combat standards than them, yet against Shifeng's attack, even she had failed to react. Melody also could not help but shake her head and smile bitterly as she looked at the 3 flame demon guards' wounds. She had intended on threatening Zero Wing and questioning Zero Wing's purpose in the Flame Demon's Valley. After all, both teams had roughly the same number of players. Even if their teams fought, she did not think that her team would lose. At worst, their teams would suffer mutual destruction. However, reality proved that her thoughts were laughable. Guild leader, what should we do? Are we going to give up, just like that? A tall, robust Tier 2 Tigerman Berserker asked. Before he had seen Shifeng's power, he had been confident in defeating Zero Wing's members, but after, he understood one thing: he absolutely must not clash with Shifeng. He would only find his death if he did. He hadn't only come to that conclusion because of Shifeng's superior basic attributes, but also because of the technique the swordsman had displayed. Why should we give up? We've gone to great lengths to find this quest, and Flame Demon's Valley is so large. Do you really think that they have eyes in every corner of the valley? A Tier 2 female ranger carrying an icy, crystalline bow said, clicking her tongue. She had no intentions of giving up on their quest. Moreover, she refused to believe that Shifeng's group would notice them sneaking into the Flame Demon's Valley. Forget it. Let's just wait here, Melody said, shaking her head. I don't think that Zero Wing is here for our quest, anyway. They must be here for something more important. Otherwise, with Zero Wing's strength, they wouldn't need to waste words on us. They could have simply gotten rid of us before entering the valley. Hearing Melody's decision, the other members nodded in agreement, seeing the logic in her words. It would have been much easier and safer just to get rid of them, rather than asking them to wait at the valley's entrance. They had just witnessed Shifeng's prowess personally, and they doubted that he'd need long to annihilate their team. If Shifeng wished it, he could have killed several of them with that attack, and they would have been powerless to do anything about it. We should also thank Rain and Blue. Large guilds generally dislike others following them during a large-scale operation. Generally, they seal off the area. Even if they don't, they tend to get rid of any potential threats, yet Black Flame had simply forbidden us from entering the valley, rather than kill us. Let's not stir up any more trouble, Melody explained. When large guilds were on an important mission, they definitely didn't show mercy. The fact that they were still alive was all thanks to thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo's membership in Zero Wing. If not for these 2 women, she didn't dare imagine what kind of outcome her team would have suffered. Upon hearing Melody's explanation, her teammates gave thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo grateful and apologetic looks. They now felt that their decision to invite the women on this mission had been a wise one. Otherwise, they would have likely died an unjust death at the entrance of the Flame Demon's Valley. This turn of events had also bewildered thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo, who still tried to figure out how to clear up the prior misunderstanding. A moment ago, the team had been hostile towards them, but now, their teammates seemed grateful and cordial. It felt like they had been dropped into hell before being thrown into heaven in the next moment. They had no idea how to react. Zero Wing is so strong, guild leader. And I've heard that Candlelight, the guild's trading firm, is doing quite well. Both Rain and Blue are Zero Wing's core members. If we can get acquainted with Black Flame through them and partner with Zero Wing, our guild's development in Forest City will definitely go more smoothly, the Tigerman Berserker quietly suggested as he looked at thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo. I get what you're trying to say. I'll ask them for their opinions later. However, I must say this, if they don't want to help us in that way or find it too difficult, you will let the matter rest. Melody nodded as she turned to the Tigerman Berserker in surprise. Previously, the Tigerman Berserker had been very opinionated about thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo's participation in this operation. She had never expected him to suggest that they cozy up to the women. The Tigerman Berserker nodded silently in response. Meanwhile, in the Flame Demon's Valley, Shifeng remained ignorant of the fact that his behavior had made thoughtful Rain and Blue Bamboo VIPs in Ninth Heaven. He simply led his team toward the Flame Demon's Valley's core region. Although the Flame Demon's Valley didn't house a lot of flame demons, as a danger zone, its severe environment was incredibly uncomfortable for those who entered. Despite having equipped fire resistance items and drinking master flame resistance potions, Zero Wing's team sweltered in the heat. This prevented them from displaying their full strength. Although Shifeng had been very careful in selecting their path, due to Aqua Rose and the others' low levels, they still attracted flame demons. They had no choice but to engage in a few fights, slowing their advance considerably. However, killing the flame demons also granted a bountiful harvest. Although the monsters lacked equipment drops, they did drop enough fire-type materials to earn a small fortune. This was especially true for the flame crystal the flame demons dropped. These flame crystals could be turned into flame gemstones, which could be equipped on weapons. When equipped, the flame gemstone gave the weapons an additional 10% flame damage. This was an excellent item for players like them, who struggled to increase their combat power. Unfortunately, the flame gemstones were consumable items, unlike ordinary attribute gemstones, which could be used indefinitely. Even so, the flame gemstones were an excellent item. After advancing for around 4 hours, Zero Wing's members finally reached the Flame Demon's Valley's core. Shifeng then contacted Thoughtful Rain and notified her that her team could now enter the Flame Demon's Valley. To current players, the Flame Demon's Valley's core was absolutely off-limits, even for half-beastmen and half-elves. Without the all-round devices, Elven Silver, and sufficiently high fire resistance, players would die in a matter of seconds upon setting foot in this area. Hence, he was not worried that others would discover his activities. After another half an hour, Fire Dance, who scouted ahead, excitedly reported in the team chat, "Guild leader, I found something." "Something good?" Shifeng muttered, curious when he heard Fire Dance's trembling, excited voice. The Flame Demon's Valley was a danger zone. It had many valuable things to offer. She shouldn't have sounded so excited. "Guild leader, you won't guess what I've found. I actually found an ore vein," Fire Dance proudly proclaimed. Chapter 1842, Attributed Ore Vein. Upon hearing Fire Dance mention an ore vein, everyone's eyes glowed with excitement. Ore veins were extremely rare in God's domain and particularly in Star Moon Kingdom. This was because Star Moon Kingdom was a relatively balanced kingdom. While the kingdom had no lack of herbs, ores, wood, and food materials, it did not specialize in any of these resources. Hence, ore veins were very rare in the kingdom. Whenever one was found, it would be highly contested over. An ore vein? What type is it? Shifeng asked curiously. He wasn't particularly surprised by the fact that an ore vein had appeared in the Flame Demon's Valley. After all, this was a mountainous region. It was also a danger zone, a map famed for abundant resources. However, although ore veins were generally quite valuable, they were also differentiated by rank. For example, the difference between a bronze vein and a magic crystal vein was like heaven and earth. Although a bronze vein could tempt ordinary large guilds, it wouldn't be particularly helpful to Zero Wing. At the very least, it wouldn't be occupying if it were in the Flame Demon's Valley. The Flame Demon's Valley was a danger zone and home to very dangerous monsters. The map's harsh environment would only make it even more difficult to mine the vein. Even super guilds had a hard time setting up mining operations in danger zones within kingdoms and empires, and the Flame Demon's Valley was both a neutral map and a danger zone. Normally, superpowers ignored ore veins in danger zones. The rewards simply weren't worth the effort. A source fire vein. Fire Dance exclaimed. When Fire Dance reported the vein's identity, her teammates let out a gasp. In their opinion, finding a copper or mithril vein was already exciting, yet they had stumbled across a source fire vein. Source fire? Shifeng's heart raced upon hearing this. A source fire vein was a bona fide grade 2 vein. Unlike ordinary grade 2 veins, a source fire vein was also an attributed ore vein. It was extremely rare even among grade 2 veins. Normally, an ore vein didn't attributes, just like how ores were normally unattributed. However, if an ore had an attribute, its price would increase by several fold. For example, frost steel ore was an ice-type ore. When using this type of ore to forge weapons, the weapons produced would deal additional frost damage. When used to produce equipment, the equipment would have additional ice resistance. This was why attributed ore veins were far more valuable than their non-attributed counterparts. Superpowers would even fight over a grade 3 attributed vein, not to mention a grade 2 vein. If the various superpowers found out about this source fire vein, they would do everything they could to acquire it. The vein might not be as valuable as a grade 1 vein, but it would greatly help their members when raiding dungeons or exploring new maps. Even if the price were great, they would pay it to secure the source fire vein. However, Shifeng had never heard of an attributed ore vein in the Flame Demon's Valley in the past, leaving him a little confused. Had such a vein existed, the Flame Demon's Valley would have been a battlefield for the various superpowers, rather than some obscure map that no one cared about. Send the coordinates. We'll head there immediately. Thinking up to this point, Shifeng wanted to verify the authenticity of the vein. If the source fire vein were real, it could help Zero Wing's rapid advance in both ship and weapon production. After Fire Dance relayed her current coordinates, Shifeng led the team, slowly approaching the assassin's location. Fire Dance was situated before a canyon that was surrounded by mountains and lava. The canyon was clear of black smoke, so visibility was excellent. Only, the terrain was extremely dangerous. There were also a large number of giant lava beasts in the area. Moreover, laying at the canyon's entrance was a gigantic, level 80 mythic ranked beast. Lava Hound, elemental creature, mythic, level 80. HP 450,000/450,000,000. Everyone felt their heads ache when they saw the two-headed lava hound guarding the canyon's entrance. However, they could clearly see a cave in the distance with some crimson ore around its entrance. This crimson ore was none other than Source Fire Oregon. It's actually real? Shifeng's eyes burned with desire as he gazed at the Source Fire Oregon. Although the vein seemed small, it was definitely a source fire vein. How unfortunate. There are too many lava monsters nearby. There's even a level 80 mythic monster guarding the canyon's entrance. We don't have a chance of securing the vein, Aqua Rose said, slightly frustrated as she looked at the cave entrance. With their current strength, they might be able to defeat level 60 mythic monsters, but a level 80 mythic ranked monster was still too difficult. Furthermore, they had to fight the lava creature in such an extreme environment. Under such circumstances, they wouldn't be able to defeat the lava hound even if they were level 80. This was because this was a danger zone. The monsters here had much higher combat standards than monsters in a normal map. Including the frightening attributes of a mythic monster, they had no hope against the level 80 lava hound unless they returned at level 90 or 100. Lava creatures were different from ordinary monsters. Players would be subjected to the burning heat radiating from the monster's body if they got close to it. Even if players had sufficiently high fire resistance to avoid taking any damage, they'd still feel the searing pain. This pain would significantly affect players' combat power and prevent them from fighting at their best. However, this was not the most frightening aspect about lava creatures. Lava creatures' corrosive ability was far more dangerous. Weapons and equipment would rapidly lose durability when they came into contact with these creatures. If the items lost all durability mid-battle, they'd be permanently lost. Because of this, players tried to avoid lava monsters as much as possible. Meanwhile, every monster in the canyon was a lava creature. Trying to clear out these monsters long-term would be hell. Not only would they fail to acquire the vein, but they would also sacrifice a large number of weapons and equipment. If they tried to construct a mining base here, a large number of monsters would assault the base during its construction. If the mining base were destroyed, all resources they had invested would be lost. On the off chance that they managed to construct a mining base here, there was also the problem of manpower. Zero Wing simply couldn't afford to station a lot of players here. This was the Flame Demon's Valley's core. Its harsh environment could easily kill the guild's players. Players needed sufficiently high fire resistance to survive here. They were only able to explore this area because they were fully equipped in fire resistance equipment and had consumed master fire resistance potions. If any other player stood in their place right now, the extreme temperatures would have long since claimed their lives. The rest of the team agreed with Aqua Rose's assessment, a little disappointed. While the source fire vein before them was a priceless treasure, they could only afford to view it from afar. Meanwhile, as Shifeng examined the roaming lava monsters, he fell deep into thought. Not many people knew the true value of an attributed or vein in God's domain yet. However, he did. The source fire vein would be particularly valuable to the current Zero Wing. Not only did the vein produce source fire ore, which could be used to increase the guild's overall combat power by a significant margin, but the vein also produced the super rare byproduct, flame source crystals. Flame source crystals were incredibly useful to master alchemists, but they were also one of the main materials to produce the epic set equipment, Broken Steel, a set exclusive to his Blade Saint class. Lava creatures? After carefully observing the terrain and the wandering lava monsters, Shifeng said, "While it would be impossible to set up a mining base here, it isn't entirely impossible to harvest the ore." Guild leader, can we really mine here? Anticipation burned in Aqua Rose's eyes as she looked at Shifeng. Nowadays, fire resistance weapons and equipment were in high demand since the various large guilds had realized how necessary these items were to their development. If Zero Wing could harvest the source fire vein, it would definitely increase the guild's development speed. Given enough time, Zero Wing's members wouldn't be limited to operating near Silverwing town. They could freely explore the Ore Empire and cross swords with the Ore Empire's evil god's temple. They had long since grown tired of the evil god's temple's antics by this point. Chapter 1843, Titan's Might. When Zero Wing's members heard that it was possible to mine the source fire vein, their eyes glowed with excitement. They all had a certain understanding of ore veins, so they knew that the source fire vein was a grade 2 ore vein. This meant that there was a certain chance to obtain magic crystals when mining it. This was something the various large guilds sorely lacked right now, especially Zero Wing. Currently, Zero Wing was expanding and recruiting more members. This meant that the guild needed to nurture far more players. Although Zero Wing had training locations like the Battle Arena, the guild members still had to train in the Divine Colosseum's Trial Tower. Zero Wing's battle arenas simply couldn't accommodate enough people. The Trial Tower also provided comprehensive training, testing players' limits. If Zero Wing could acquire a large number of magic crystals, the guild would be able to transform the new recruits into usable combat power. Right now, the majority of Zero Wing's members wouldn't be useful in large-scale combat. This was also why Zero Wing's members couldn't venture far from Silverwing town, and the guild couldn't develop properly in the Ore Empire. We'll have to give it a try before we'll know if it's truly possible. I can only say that we have around a 30% success rate, Shifeng said, shaking his head. He wasn't particularly confident in his plan. While it was common knowledge that lava monsters were extremely difficult to deal with, not many knew that lava monsters also had obvious weaknesses: ice and water-type attacks. In addition, an ice or water-type environment would dull the lava monster's reactions to an extreme. Once the lava creature's reactions dulled, they become far easier to deal with. However, lava monsters filled the canyon before them. In addition, they were nowhere near the monster's levels. If they tried to lure a single lava monster, they'd likely attract a large group instead. They also had to worry about the level 80 mythic lava hound. Moreover, this was the Flame Demon's Valley. The environment was extremely hot. Even after equipping fire resistance equipment and drinking master fire resistance potions, the heat still affected them considerably, and they couldn't fully exhibit their combat powers. Picking a fight with the lava hound would be suicide. Hence, he wasn't confident in success. A 30% success rate? It's so high. Some hope is better than none at all. Guild leader, just tell us what you need us to do. When they heard their chance of success, the team grew excited, rather than disappointed. Even the various superpowers weren't likely to occupy this source fire vein, but if Zero Wing could, it could grow into a super first-rate guild within a short time. Zero Wing would then be able to compete for dominance over God's domain. It would no longer be limited to its status as a kingdom's #1 guild. Aqua Rose, who had once been an honorary elder in the veteran first-rate guild, Twilight Echo, had never thought that Zero Wing would one day have a chance of becoming a super first-rate guild. Despite so many years of development, Twilight Echo had never reached the point where it had the potential of becoming a super first-rate guild, yet Zero Wing already had. Alright, since everyone is in agreement, Aqua and those with the Sea God's legacy, ready your spells. You should have learned quite a few water-type spells. As for the remaining elementalists, prepare to use ice-type spells. Try to use as many AoE spells as possible. I don't need you all to attack. I just need you to transform this canyon into a world of ice and water. As long as you can change the environment, the lava monsters will weaken and become much easier to deal with. If you succeed, we'll have a chance of getting the vein. Cola, Turtledove, and Yiwumian, once Aqua and the others begin, you three need to do everything you can to lure the monsters away from the canyon's entrance. Cola, you'll be responsible for tanking the lava hound. All you need to do is lure it away. Everyone else will use the ice and water-type magic scrolls I'll distribute in a moment. I don't need you to buy a lot of time. 5 or 6 minutes will be enough. No matter what happens, do not use Power of Darkness. We'll need it later. When Shifeng finished explaining his plan, his teammate gulped as they glanced at the 8-meter-tall lava hound. They had no confidence of defeating the mythic monster. The other level 70+ lava monsters shouldn't be an issue, but distracting a level 80 mythic monster for 5 or 6 minutes would be a massive challenge. An unsuppressed level 80 mythic monster would most likely kill them with a single slap, and they weren't allowed to use their berserk skills. Surprisingly, however, Cola brimmed with fighting spirit. If nobody has any problems, let's begin, Shifeng said. After scouting the terrain for about 10 minutes, Aqua Rose and the other casters finally decided on their positions. Meanwhile, after Cola, Turtledove, and Yiwumian prepared to pull every monster's aggro in the canyon. Good. Let's begin. Shifeng commanded once everyone was in position. Immediately, Aqua Rose and the others started to chant incantations and draw runes, drawing a large amount of water and ice-type mana towards them. The non-magical class players also activated their water and ice-type magic scrolls. The flow of mana soon attracted the attention of nearby monsters. These monsters instantly searched for the change's source. However, before these lava monsters discovered Aqua Rose and her companions' locations, AoE spells began to descend. Boom! 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 Suddenly, icicles and waterfalls rained down from the top of the canyon walls. As the streams of ice and water reached the bottom of the canyon, the molten lava vaporized the ice and water, filling the canyon with a dense mist. At the same time, the canyon's temperature began to decrease. Unfortunately, Aqua Rose and the other spells were only temporary. Their spells couldn't stop the lava from spewing out of the ground and canyon walls. Damn it! Why is there so much lava? If we can't stop it, changing the environment will be impossible, Blackie said, anxiety filling his heart as he watched water and ice become steam. If they failed to change the environment, the lava monsters would easily annihilate them. They shouldn't even dream of securing the source fire vein. Seeing the swarm of lava monsters charge up the canyon, Cola and the other MTs began to grow nervous. These level 70+ lava monsters hadn't weakened in the slightest. It seems the effects are quite good. Everything is coming along just as I expected. Shifeng smiled as he watched the rising steam. He then took out the ancient weather book and activated weather control. He hadn't actually expected Aqua Rose and the others to change the environment here by themselves. After all, only powerful domain skills could accomplish such a feat. Only a fool would try to change an area's environment with ordinary AoE spells. While the ancient weather book could alter an area's weather, it was too difficult to do so in such an inferno. It would take a very long time for the ancient weather book to alter this environment enough to impact the lava monsters. Meanwhile, the lava hound would have killed the entire team several times. Hence, he needed Aqua Rose and the others to create enough steam in the valley to hasten the ancient weather book's alteration process. Suddenly, a powerful storm began to brew above the canyon, dark clouds forming in the sky. After 5 seconds, rain began to fall, showering the lava monsters. As the rainwater covered their bodies, the lava monstress cried out in pain. Their body temperatures rapidly began to cool. Not only did the lava monsters' movement speed begin to decrease, but they also seemed sluggish. Awoo! The lava hound raged as the rain drenched its body, its howl so powerful that it even pushed away the descending rainwater and rubble on the ground. The lava hound then charged for Shifeng, swiping a paw as it pounced on the swordsman. "You're not getting past me." When the lava hound ignored him, Cola activated Titan's domain and ran at the beast with his shield raised. Boom! Sparks scattered when the lava hound's nails scratched against Cola's Titan guard. The lava hound's gigantic body came to an abrupt halt. Meanwhile, Cola only stumbled 3 steps backward, a damage exceeding -1,000 appearing above his head. To Cola, who had over 90,000 HP, this damage was practically negligible. So strong. Cola can actually tank that thing by himself? Everyone was surprised to see Cola barely harmed. This was a level 80 mythic monster they were talking about. Although the rain had somewhat weakened the lava hound, it was a mythic monster, yet Cola had received its attack effortlessly without any help. Even Shifeng was shocked by how little damage Cola had taken. He finally understood just how frightening a fragmented legendary shield was. By the looks of it, the Guardian Knight should have no problems tanking the lava hound by himself even if he didn't use Titan's domain. Shifeng also dismissed the worry that plagued his heart. He then activated Gale domain and flew toward the cave entrance in the distance. He quickly reached the mine, realizing that its entrance was so small that barely 3 people, shoulder to shoulder, would be able to enter at the same time. The instant Shifeng set foot in the mine, a series of system notifications reached his ears. Moreover, he wasn't the only person to receive the system notifications. Everyone in the Flame Demon's Valley had received them. Chapter 1844, Underground Country. System, congratulations. You have discovered the Fire God's ancient land. Flame Demon's Valley Region System Announcement. A player has triggered the new expansion pack, Underground Country, and activated the Primordial Taboo Seal. Players may enter the Underground Country in 10 days. The system announcement repeated 3 times, the system's indifferent voice echoing in everyone's minds for quite some time. Underground Country? Shifeng was stunned. Fire God's ancient land? He had never heard of the Flame Demon's Valley containing some kind of underground country during his previous life. He only knew that the Fire Demon's Valley's monsters had a high drop rate for source fire ore and magic crystals, and a few superpowers had fought fiercely over the area. However, this new expansion pack had never been triggered in the past. Although he had never heard of the fire god's ancient land before, he was very familiar with ancient lands. Any location that was considered an ancient land had existed before the Great Destruction. Only, these locations had disappeared from the public eye after the Great Destruction. Meanwhile, these ancient lands were rumored to have been blessed by ancient gods, which was why they had survived for so long. But as time passed, these ancient lands had become relics. Among the various ancient lands that had been discovered during Shi Feng's life, some contained items that had even been famous during ancient times. These items had all been highly sought after by the various superpowers. Hence, the various superpowers had fought desperately to claim any discovered ancient lands in the past. Shi Feng had never thought that the source fire vein they had found was actually an entrance to the fire god's ancient land. This rendered Shi Feng speechless. Now that the system announcement had been made, the underground country in the Flame Demon's Valley would be exposed sooner or later. The source fire vein would definitely be discovered as well. Meanwhile, the Flame Demon's Valley was tens of thousands of miles away from Star Moon Kingdom. If the Fire Dragon Empire's superpowers wanted to claim the vein, he'd be powerless to stop them. Fortunately, it wasn't easy to reach the Flame Demon's Valley's core. Players would need high enough fire resistance to do so. Triggering this new expansion pack also excited Zero Wing's members. Although they didn't know what the underground country was, they knew that this expansion pack represented a huge opportunity. Every kingdom and empire had its own specialty products, and no player had ever explored this underground country yet. This meant that they could monopolize the underground country's specialty products. Depending on the item's value, they could make a fortune by reselling them. Although Zero Wing's members were excited about the new expansion pack, when they returned their attention to the horrific number of approaching monsters, they suppressed their excitement and focused on their enemies. As for Shi Feng, after a moment of surprise, he quickly charged into the source fire vein and started building a marker for a teleportation magic array. Trying to get all of his team members into the Flame Demon's Valley's core had already been incredibly difficult, not to mention sending an army into the valley. No guild in God's domain would be able to do so at this stage of the game, so it was impossible to mine this source fire vein long term. However, while this task might be impossible for other guilds, the same was not true for Zero Wing. As long as he set up a teleportation marker, he could transport players via teleportation array. Not only would it save his players a lot of travel time, but they could also avoid unnecessary battles in the Flame Demon's Valley. Unfortunately, due to the massive distance between teleportation arrays, the magic crystal cost would be considerable. But compared to the source fire vein's value, the teleportation fees were almost negligible. Aside from the fact that magic crystals could drop from the source fire vein, the source fire ore was incredibly valuable. It also had a small chance of dropping flame source crystals. Meanwhile, in a hot, sandy area in the Flame Demon's Valley's inner region, Melody and her team worked on clearing out the monsters in an ancient ruin. When Shi Feng entered the source fire vein, they, too, had heard the regional announcement regarding the new expansion pack. Amazing! Someone actually triggered a new expansion pack in the Flame Demon's Valley. That should be Zero Wing's doing. Is it the matter they mentioned earlier? Although I don't know what the underground country is, it must have a lot of valuable items. Our ninth heaven has struck gold. The only other guild that should be in the Flame Demon's Valley is Zero Wing. Our two guilds should be the only ones who know about this underground country. We'll make a fortune by reselling the items from it. Excitement flashed in the eyes of the Ninth Heaven's members when they heard the system announcement. Traveling into human kingdoms and empires was intensely difficult for neutral races, so any items they purchased in Forest City were far above market price. Now that they had discovered the underground country, they could sell its unique items in Forest City. They'd be able to make a fortune and rapidly develop their guild. So, this is Zero Wing's strength? Melody revealed a bitter smile when she read the system announcement. She had been smug and satisfied because she had accepted a high-ranked quest with an extraordinary reward. In contrast, Zero Wing had triggered a new expansion pack in the Flame Demon's Valley. The difference between them was immense. Previously, she had still suspected Zero Wing of targeting Ninth Heaven. But now, her suspicions were laughable. To Zero Wing, her high-ranked quest wasn't likely worth a second glance. While Ninth Heaven's members envied Zero Wing for activating a new expansion pack, Shifeng frantically set up the teleportation array's marker. Setting up a teleportation marker was not an easy task. Players needed a considerable understanding of magic arrays to succeed. The procedures were extremely complex, and normally, a player would need a lot of time to set up the marker and connect it to a teleportation array. However, to Shifeng, who was adept in drawing advanced magic arrays, this task was easier. He swiftly etched magic arrays on one crystal after another before placing the crystals on a large magic array he had carved into the ground. Very quickly, the mana in the mine started to gather in the magic array. Shifeng could feel the mine's dense mana begin to dwindle. Awoo! Suddenly, Shifeng heard a furious howl from outside of the mine, echoing on the mine's stone walls. Guild leader, trouble. The lava hound went berserk and is charging towards you. It's ignoring aggro completely. Aqua Rose shouted in the team chat when she saw the enraged lava hound rush back to the canyon. To current players, a berserk level 80 mythic monster was an absolute nightmare. Kola had tried to stop the lava hound with his shield but had instantly lost over 30,000 HP when the boss had responded with an angry swipe. The lava hound's strength was terrifying. If anyone else had taken that attack, they would have likely died instantly. As soon as Aqua Rose fell silent, the lava hound arrived before the mine's entrance. Fortunately, the mine entrance was too small for the lava hound, so the boss couldn't get in. Seeing this, Aqua Rose and Kola breathed a sigh of relief. However, something then happened that stupefied Zero Wing's members. The gigantic lava hound split into 3 miniature copies. Each copy was still a level 80 mythic monster, but they did have slightly lower basic attributes. Before Zero Wing's members could react, the 3 lava hounds charged into the mine. Hurry! Hurry up! Shifeng could already hear rapidly approaching footsteps. It was obvious that the lava hound was almost to him. Meanwhile, he only needed to insert one last crystal into the ground to set the spatial coordinates. Unfortunately, the loading bar, which had swiftly filled before, felt extremely slow to Shifeng. It was only 70% full. While conducting the merging process, Shifeng couldn't do anything. He couldn't even activate a skill. When the loading bar reached 90%, 3 1-meter-tall lava hounds appeared before Shifeng. Despicable mortal. You dare violate this sacred ground. You'll pay for your crimes with your soul. The 3 lava hounds spoke in the human language, rage flaring in their eyes as they spat 3 scorching, white beams at Shifeng. Like lasers, the white beams vaporized everything in their path. Chapter 1845, Evil God's Sword. Just before the 3 scorching beams slammed into Shifeng, the loading bar before him finally reached 100%. When the beams were less than 10 yards away from Shifeng, a barrier of divine runes appeared. When the 3 beams met the barrier, it shook violently. As for Shifeng, he shot backward like a cannonball. Boom! Shifeng crashed into one of the mine shaft's sturdy walls. What power! Shifeng was shocked as he stared at the mine shaft's deformed terrain. He had never thought that the lava hound would possess such frightening power even after dividing itself into 3 copies. They were currently inside a source fire vein. The walls surrounding them were sturdy and fire-resistant, especially the source fire. Ordinary flames wouldn't melt it, let alone vaporize it. One could easily imagine how high the lava hound's flames were. If those white-hot flames struck a player's equipment, not even magically enhanced, dark gold equipment would survive. Only epic equipment might. If he hadn't activated Absolute Domain in time, he likely would have died from that attack. Retreat! Everyone, retreat immediately! Shifeng shouted through the team chat once the flames dissipated. Kola could barely tank one lava hound. Now that they had to face 3 miniature lava hounds, which were only slightly weaker than the full version, he knew they couldn't stay here for a moment longer. After issuing his command, he switched the aura of Earth to the aura of space, preparing to teleport out of this map. Awoo! As Shifeng was about to escape using space movement, the 3 lava hounds howled as one. 3 light red ripples radiated from the beasts, and as if space had frozen, the 7 luminaries' ring failed to open a tear in space. Spatial lockdown? Shifeng's expression darkened when he saw the growing spatial tear before him disappear. A monster with such peerless strength and the ability, spatial lockdown, were a nightmare for players. Coming across one such monster almost guaranteed death. Monsters that possessed the spatial lockdown ability were extremely rare in God's domain. Normally, only NPCs at the peak of God's domain could execute the ability. Shifeng never thought that an elemental creature like the lava hound would be able to use it as well. You have touched on the almighty fire god's taboo. Sacrifice your soul to beg forgiveness from the fire god. The 3 lava hounds spoke in a chilling tone before charging at Shifeng. Although the 3 lava hounds were small, their movements were so powerful that space itself trembled in their wake. Their strength could even rival the complete lava hounds. As the 3 lava hounds approached Shifeng, they split up and assaulted Shifeng from 3 different directions, transitioning into a battle formation as smoothly as NPCs. Is this a god's guardian? Shifeng's expression turned somber as he watched the 3 lava hounds approach. It was normal in God's domain to find treasures guarded by powerful monsters, and there were some incredibly powerful existences among these guardian monsters. These guardians had been created by the gods. Normally, gods only created such powerful guardians to protect their wealth. Not only did these guardians have an eternal lifespan, but they were also undying. In addition, they commanded extremely powerful skills and spells. They were even more difficult to deal with than archaic species of the same rank and level. I can only give it a try. Shifeng gritted his teeth and used Heavenly Dragon's power before activating Divine Steps. In the next moment, 10 doppelgangers with the exact same aura and attributes as Shifeng appeared. Shifeng and his doppelgangers then charged at the 3 lava hounds. Although the lava hounds were powerful, Shifeng managed to nullify their attacks by constantly switching positions with his doppelgangers. Using this opportunity, Shifeng quickly made his way towards the mine's exit. Normally, guardian monsters would give up the chase once they were a certain distance away from what they were supposed to protect. As long as Shifeng moved out of range, he could shake off the lava hounds. However, the lava hounds were incredibly difficult to get away from. Not only was their strength incredibly high, but their speed was also impressive. They constantly interrupted Shifeng's advance and left very little space for him to move forward. By the time Divine Steps' duration ended, Shifeng had only crossed a little over 50 yards. He was still over 100 yards away from the mine's entrance. The instant Shifeng's doppelgangers disappeared, a lava hound swiped its paw at Shifeng so fast that it was impossible to dodge. With no other choice, Shifeng raised Killing Ray to block the attack. Pung! The instant the lava hound's paw met Shifeng's sword, he felt his entire arm go numb. The impact sent his body flying backward over 20 yards, dealing over -40,000 damage. What incredible strength! This should be close to rivaling a high mythic strength. Shifeng thought as he stared at the lava hound that hit him. His encounter with the lava hound had been brief, and the beast hadn't used any skills, yet he had lost so much HP. He had already activated Heavenly Dragon's power, as well, drastically increasing his strength and defense. Right now, his defense was even higher than Kola's, although he didn't have the passive skills that provided damage reduction. Even then, he had still lost over 40,000 HP. The current lava hound before him definitely had much higher strength than the original. Meanwhile, he had to face 3 of these lava hounds. Before Shifeng could figure a way out of this situation, another lava hound pounced at him. Hurriedly, Shifeng activated parry to block its attack. Pung! Once more, Feng flew backward by over 20 yards. Not only hadn't he moved closer to the mine's entrance, but he was actually further from it. This was clearly what the lava hounds had intended to do with their attacks. These lava hounds' combat standards were in no way inferior to expert players. Am I going to die here? Feng could not help his bitter smile as he watched the third lava hound pounce at him. It would seem that he had taken on too large of a risk to set up the teleportation marker. While he did not mind losing one level of EXP, he carried multiple tools that would drop on his death. Moreover, these items would not simply remain on the ground after being dropped. After a certain time had passed, these valuable items would disappear. Meanwhile, when players died, they'd only resurrect after half an hour unless someone resurrected them with a skill or special tool. By the time he returned to this mine, his dropped items would be gone from this world. As Feng clashed with the lava hounds, his HP continued to decrease. 80%. 70%. 60%. Although he had tried to use void steps to blindsight the beasts, the technique was ineffective against the lava hound's sharp sense. Even though the lava hounds couldn't see him, they could pinpoint his location with their other senses, launching another paw swipe or bite attack. Why hasn't the guild leader come out yet? Aqua Rose, who had long since distanced herself from the canyon, muttered as she watched the swarm of lava monsters return to their home. The guild leader should be fine. If he goes all out, he can even contend with mythic monsters, Blackie reassured. It's been so long, though. Moreover, there were 3 lava hounds. I think it's best if I go take a look, Fire Dance said worriedly. I'll go with you, Flying Shadow offered as he followed Fire Dance. Meanwhile, inside the mine, Feng watched the circling lava hounds and glanced at the small percentage of HP he had remaining with a bitter smile. Despite activating twofold Berserk, which temporarily granted him the power to contend with Tier 4 mythics, he still couldn't come within 100 yards of the mine's entrance. While he was confident that he could escape a single lava hound, 3 were too much for him to handle. To make matters worse, the 3 lava hounds coordinated perfectly. Although he had thought of using a magic or summoning scroll, the 3 lava hounds were simply too fast. They gave him no opportunities to use such tools. As twofold Berserk's duration continued to run out, Feng frantically searched through his bag for items that could help him out of this predicament. Suddenly, he discovered a broken longsword that had been inactive in his bag for quite some time. This longsword was none other than the evil god's inheritance, a treasured sword that had once belonged to the evil god. Seeing that the lava hounds charged at him again, Feng gritted his teeth and took out the evil god's inheritance. He then inserted his power into the weapon. Protecting the items that would drop if he died was undoubtedly more important than losing 10 points in all of his attributes. After Feng powered the sword, the evil god's inheritance pulsated. An invisible force then spread out from the sword, sweeping through the mine with so much power that even space shook with the intensity. A moment later, a deathly aura pervaded the mine shaft. Chapter 1846, Broken Sword's Power. As the aura of death saturated the mine, space itself froze. The 3 lava hounds slid to a halt as they glared at the broken sword in Feng's hand, wary. Pitch-black divine runes had appeared along the broken blade as the sword released plumes of dark smoke. The weapon felt cold and evil. The lava hounds finally discerned the broken sword's identity, and fear flashed in their eyes. It was as if they had remembered something horrific from their past. Despicable heretic. You dare set foot in this sacred land. Let the almighty fire god's flames purify your soul. After Feng replaced the abyssal blade with the evil god's inheritance, the broken sword seemed to trigger something in the 3 lava hounds. Suddenly, they began to grow larger as golden flames flared across their bodies. Despite standing still, the solid rock beneath the lava hound's feet began to crack. Space tore around them as if it couldn't withstand the golden flame's power. It was as if the space around them was no longer able to withstand the power of the golden flames. Shi Feng could also sense a threat of death from that golden fire. Moreover, Shi Feng could tell that this death wouldn't just end with a single lost level. He could feel a power akin to soul fire, although this was many times stronger. Burning and devouring his soul would be child's play for this strange fire. If these golden flames burned a player's soul, the player's account would likely be left permanently crippled. Before Shi Feng could think of a plan to get out of this troubling situation, the three lava hounds pounced as one. At this point, Shi Feng had no skills that he could use to protect himself. In addition, the lava hound's movement speed had significantly increased. With no other options, Shi Feng instinctively executed Sword's Orbit. Countless sword lights enveloped Shi Feng, clashing with the three gigantic, flaming beasts as they attacked. Boom! 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 The resulting impacts tore the nearby rocky ground. The scattered sparks ignited anything they touched, transforming the area into a sea of fire. The three lava hounds were thrown back, forming three large craters as they crashed into the ground. Damages of over -3,000 appeared above their heads. In contrast, Shi Feng remained standing in his original position, although the ground beneath him had been burned and melted. Now, he stood in a deep crater of his own that had a smooth, glassy surface. What incredible power! So, this is a weapon that had once belonged to an evil god? Shi Feng was stunned as he looked at the injured lava hounds. Truthfully, the broken sword he wielded was only fragmented legendary rank. Although the weapon provided a considerable boost to strength and attack power, he hadn't expected the boost to be this intense. After all, his abyssal blade was even stronger than ordinary epic weapons, but it had never been this powerful. Meanwhile, the lava hounds before him nearly had enough strength to rival high mythic ranked monsters. Even after activating twofold berserk, he still hadn't been a match for the lava hound's strength, yet when he had used the evil god's inheritance against these monsters, he felt as if he had hit a group of weak, powerless dogs. He hadn't felt the intense impact that he had experienced during his prior clashes with these beasts. Although he had seen weapons that could weaken an opponent's power in the past, he had never seen one as strong as the evil god's inheritance. The weapon had actually decimated Tier 4 mythic monsters' strength to such a great extent. That wasn't all. When he had clashed with the lava hounds, he had felt his own strength skyrocket. It was as if the broken sword had absorbed the monster's strength, transferring it to him. As Shi Feng tried to get a better grasp on the evil god's inheritance's power, a lava hound stood up. This time, however, it did not charge at Shi Feng. Instead, it howled with anger and formed a golden, threefold magic array in front of itself. A moment later, a beam of fire shot out from the magic array, moving so fast that Shi Feng couldn't dodge in time. This beam was the result of the lava hound's Tier 4 spell, Red Lotus Breath, the same spell that had vaporized the source fire or earlier. In response, Shi Feng simply swung the evil god's inheritance at the approaching beam of fire. Boom! The broken sword sliced the crimson beam in half, the flames disintegrating the stone wall behind Shi Feng. Shi Feng stumbled 5 steps back as a damage of over -10,000 appeared above his head. Sure enough. Shi Feng was indescribably shocked, glancing down at the evil god's inheritance in his hand. As he had guessed, the evil god's inheritance could absorb an enemy's power, converting it into his own. Moreover, he had received far more power from this attack than the last. Not only had he gained 20% more strength, but his fire resistance had also increased by 30%. This ability was simply frightening. Due to this ability, his combat power had instantly soared. Moreover, he could sense that this still wasn't the evil god's inheritance's limit. Although he couldn't see the evil god's inheritance's exact attributes, when he wielded the weapon, he felt that he hadn't fully grasped the broken sword's power. The broken sword could grant him even more boons depending on the strength of the attack he received. However, the provided improvements were not without a flaw: their short duration. Each time it absorbed an attack's power, the weapon's wielder could only retain it for a short 10 seconds. Even so, it was amazing. Shifeng found it truly hard to imagine that the evil god's inheritance was still incomplete and that he only exhibited 10% of its power after sacrificing his attributes. If he could exhibit the weapon's full power, the result would be unimaginable. Most likely, he'd be able to suppress the 3 lava hounds completely. One should be able to leave now. When he saw the other 2 beasts charge towards him, Shifeng licked his lips in excitement and ran to meet his enemies in battle. Previously, the difference between their basic attributes had been too great. Even after using twofold berserk, he had been thoroughly suppressed. Now, however, his strength had surpassed the lava hounds after he had weakened them and boosted his own with the evil god's inheritance. Shifeng relied on his superior strength and technique to push the 2 lava hounds to the side. He then dashed for the mine's entrance like a powerful gale. When the lava hounds caught up to Shifeng, he easily threw them back with an attack. In less than 5 seconds, Shifeng burst from the mine and back into the canyon. Thousands of lava monsters then turned to look at the swordsman. Big Sis Fire, the guild leader is out. Flying Shadow said, breathing a sigh of relief when he saw Shifeng emerge from the mine. However, his excitement quickly faded, and a somber expression dominated his face. Thousands of lava monsters surrounded Shifeng, including the 3 mythic lava hounds that chased after him. Even a tier 2 assassin like him or Fire Dance would have no hope of surviving such an encirclement, much less a swordsman like Shifeng. I'll attract the monster's attention. Ready a defensive magic scroll and prepare to use it on the guild leader. Fire Dance felt her scalp tingle as she watched the swarm of monsters close in on Shifeng, but she had to try to rescue her guild leader. She could feel how extraordinary the flames that enveloped the lava hounds were. If those flames claimed Shifeng's life, he'd lose far more than a single level. Just as Fire Dance was about to dash forward, Shifeng raised the evil god's inheritance into the air. Suddenly, the canyon's mana began to gather around the broken blade, and the sword gradually took on a mist-like state. Shifeng swung the weapon lightly at the surrounding lava monsters. The mist-like broken sword suddenly disappeared from Shifeng's hand and transformed into 5 pitch-black sword lights that flew at the offending monsters, devouring everything in their path. This move was the evil god's inheritance's only skill after Shifeng had sacrificed a fraction of his attributes. Godslayer. With one attack, every chieftain and lord-ranked lava monster nearby was incinerated, their ashes scattering in the wind. The surviving monsters were heavily injured and unable to make the slightest movement. Chapter 1847, Flame Demon's Crown. When Shifeng had swung the broken sword, the attack had carved 5 deep grooves in the rocky ground around him. The canyon's terrain had changed drastically. What great destructive power! Shock filled Shifeng as he gazed at the evil god's inheritance in his hand. Godslayer's destructive power was even greater than that of a Tier 4 super large-scale destruction spell. He had turned several hundred level 70+ lava monsters into ash instantly. The skill truly had the power to decimate heaven and earth. Unfortunately, the monsters he had killed with Godslayer hadn't granted Shifeng any EXP. In fact, he would not gain any EXP from slain monsters while he had the evil god's inheritance active. The sword would absorb it all. After killing so many monsters, the black mist the evil god's inheritance emitted had become denser. Following which, Shifeng heard the sound of a system notification. System, evil god's inheritance has accumulated sufficient life force and recovered the first evil god's mark, activating a portion of its power. The evil god's inheritance has such an effect? Shifeng was surprised. He had thought that he could only repair the weapon by collecting the missing fragments. He had never expected the broken blade to recover some of its lost power by absorbing others' life force. Evil god's inheritance, one-handed sword. A treasured sword that the evil god had once used. However, the sword had been destroyed in a battle, shattered into 3 pieces. Although the evil god's treasured sword had been destroyed, the evil god's power within remains intact. As long as one gathers all 3 fragments, it is possible to restore the sword to its past glory. This piece is the sword's broken hilt. By permanently sacrificing 10 points of all attributes, the user may temporarily use the sword's power. Although this sword has been severely damaged, it can still exert 1/10 of its original power. First Evil God's Mark, power absorption can increase strength by a maximum of 100%, stamina by 20%, and all resistances by 100%. When this fragment is within 1,000 yards of other fragments, the fragments will resonate. Drops upon death. Cannot be traded. Although he could strengthen the evil god's inheritance by killing a large number of monsters, he had no intentions of doing so. While Shifeng might wield extraordinary power when he used the evil god's inheritance, he'd have to sacrifice 10 points from every basic attribute permanently each time he wielded the weapon. While 10 points in all attributes might not be much to a Tier 2 player, it would add up. If he used the weapon for too often, he would cripple his account. One could say that the evil god's inheritance was even more evil than magic weapons. Hence, the evil god's inheritance should only be used as a final trump card. Shifeng had no intentions of feeding the evil god's inheritance any more life force right now, either. He only had half an hour to use the weapon after activating it. How much life force could he possibly accumulate in half an hour? However, the ability to strengthen the evil god's inheritance had truly been an unexpected boon. Following which, Shifeng charged out of the hole he had opened in the monster encirclement. Now that the evil god's inheritance had grown stronger, he had a much easier time dealing with the 3 lava hounds that chased after him. Is this the guild leader at his full strength? Flying Shadow, who watched from the valley's entrance, was astonished as he watched Shifeng take on 3 level 80 lava hounds without trouble. Even Fire Dance, who prepared to move out, was stunned. She had assumed that after so many battles and adventures, the distance between her and Shifeng had shortened. Looking at it now, however, it would seem that the gap was larger than ever. What the 2 assassins did not know was that Shifeng fully relied on the evil god's inheritance to command such power. Without it, he might not have survived even after activating twofold Berserk. Shifeng quickly escaped the lava hound's grasp, and although this further enraged the mythic monsters, they didn't dare leave their domain by as much as a centimeter. They could only watch until Shifeng left their sight. Despicable heretic. The almighty fire god will not let you get away with this. After Shifeng had vanished, the lava hounds released furious howls, the sounds echoing throughout the valley. At the same time, a system notification reached Shifeng's ears. System, you have incurred the Arari god's wrath. As long as you enter the fire god's territory, its guardians will hunt you to the death. How ruthless. Shifeng could not help his astonishment as he read the system notification. He had only set up a teleportation marker in the fire god's ancient land, yet he was now prohibited from entering any location the fire god sheltered. This penalty was truly severe. After all, the fire god was a god who had left behind many areas in God's domain. The fire god had even been responsible for creating a number of other worlds. This penalty basically warned him that he could lose his life if he entered any of these locations. Unless he was strong enough to defeat the area's guardians, he shouldn't even consider exploring the locations. But after giving the matter some thought, Shifeng didn't mourn the loss. Now that he had constructed a teleportation marker in the fire god's ancient land, he could lead a team to mine the source fire ore without revealing themselves to the lava hounds as long as he prepared properly. In 10 days, he could also visit the so-called underground country, possibly obtaining another significant harvest. Overall, he considered this transaction quite profitable. After leaving the canyon, Shifeng regrouped with Zero Wing's other members. He then briefed Aqua Rose about the teleportation marker and had her contact her subordinates to prepare. They would need enough fire resistance to survive in the Flame Demon's Valley's core region. Moreover, only intermediate miners or higher could mine the source fire ore. They'd only be able to revisit the mine after fulfilling these 2 conditions. It would take quite some time to prepare. After the team rested for a short moment, Shifeng led his team into the heart of the Flame Demon's Valley. Although they came across quite a few monsters on their way, and Shifeng was currently weakened, the team advanced relatively quickly with their powerful MTs like Kola and Shifeng's summon Tier 3 demons. As no one had explored the Flame Demon's Valley thus far, it was home to a lot of monsters, which, fortunately, provided far more EXP than normal. Moreover, a large number of treasure chests hid in the area. After venturing through the core region for 4 hours, some of the team's level 56 members had risen to level 57. Fire Dance and Flying Shadow had also discovered 6 treasure chests in the area. They had found 3 bronze treasure chests, a mysterious iron treasure chest, a secret silver treasure chest, and a fine gold treasure chest. The discovery surprised both Fire Dance and Flying Shadow, who frequently searched for treasure chests in the fields. It was common knowledge that treasure chests were extremely rare in God's domain. Normally, a map only had 2 or 3 at one time, yet after wandering in a small section of the core region, they had discovered 6. Moreover, one was a fine gold treasure chest. Past level 50, a bronze treasure chest would contain loot that could rival the items a High Lord dropped, while mysterious iron chests items were on par with a Great Lord, and secret silver treasure chests dropped items on par with a Grand Lord's loot. As for a fine gold treasure chest, its loot could rival that of a mythic monster. However, in the Flame Demon's Valley, both the monsters and the treasure chests offered weapons and equipment that were all level 70 or higher. Unfortunately, current players couldn't use these items unless they had weapons and equipment that could reduce level requirements by 15 levels or more. As Shifeng activated the fine gold treasure chest, it released a light that illuminated the gloomy sky above the Flame Demon's Valley. Even players several thousand yards away could see the glow. The Flame Demon's crown? Shifeng was flabbergasted when he saw the exquisite, flaming crown inside the treasure chest. Chapter 1848, Ancient Demon. Guild Leader, did you find something good? Aqua Rose asked curiously as she watched Shifeng's blank expression. The rest of the team turned to look at Shifeng, as well, anticipation flashing in their eyes. They all wanted to know what kind of treasure a fine gold treasure chest had to offer. A fine gold treasure chest was almost impossible to find in level 50+ maps. The best players normally found were secret silver rank. Meanwhile, even mysterious iron treasure chests could cause a heated struggle between guild teams. The higher quality treasure chest players found, the more of a commotion activating the treasure chest would cause. In turn, this would lead to more players finding out about the treasure chest. Moreover, after players acquired the items inside a treasure chest, there was a 2-hour period when the items would be guaranteed to drop upon death. Hence, whenever a treasure chest appeared in the fields, a slaughter would soon follow. Fortunately, Zero Wing's team didn't have to worry about being attacked. After all, this place was the Flame Demon's Valley. The only other players that might see the glow from the fine gold treasure chest were the 9th Heaven members. Even if other players with hostile intentions discovered them, they had no fear that anyone would try to rob them. Something good has dropped, Shifeng said, laughing. He then retrieved the Flame Demon's crown and shared its statistics in the team chat. Flame Demon's crown, head, fine gold rank. Equipment requirement, strength 800, agility 800, and intelligence 800 defense plus 100 additional passive /. Flame Demon's body, allows the wearer to gain the body of a flame demon, increasing fire resistance by 200 and becoming immune to burning effects. Additional active /. Flame Avatar, becomes immune to all flame damage for 1 minute. Cooldown, 10 minutes. After reading the Flame Demon's crown's details, the team lost their prior excitement. Guild Leader, this crown is a scam. Not only does it have such a high equipment requirement, but it doesn't actually offer any basic attributes. The only good thing about it is its high fire resistance, but it isn't worth sacrificing everything else. I feel the same. The monsters in harsh environments are generally very powerful. Although this crown can provide sufficient fire resistance to survive in these maps, without the basic attributes, you'll have a difficult time dealing with monsters. It would be much better to equip several pieces of equipment that provide less fire resistance but have significant basic attributes. Its defensive properties are even more important. No matter how I look at this crown, it doesn't seem to have any. Everyone quickly discerned the pros and cons of the Flame Demon's crown. Even level 50 common cloth armor had more than 100 defense. The Flame Demon's crown's defense was practically a useless decoration. In addition, losing the basic attributes from a piece of equipment would reduce a player's attributes by around 10%. This would cause at least a 20% reduction in combat power. Moreover, due to the lack of defense in the head section, others would have a weakness to exploit. If one were struck in the head, it was entirely possible that they'd suffer a fainted state. As God's domain continued to update, the equipment players wore would have greater importance. Equipment would play a role in a player's defense beyond basic attributes. Take two players with the same defense, for example. If one of these players wore chest armor while the other player did not, the player without a chest piece would receive more damage when struck in that area and suffer additional negative effects. If a player took a blow to the head, they would feel dizzy and powerless, and their reactions would become sluggish. If one were stuck in the arm, it would go numb and become difficult to move. There were subtle differences in the negative effects depending on the materials of their equipment, as well. An attack's impact was one such example. During the early stages of the game, these negative effects were barely noticeable, but as players took on higher-leveled monsters, these negative effects would become more prominent. As a result, players would have to choose their equipment carefully. It wasn't enough to prioritize basic attributes. Players also needed to focus on their equipment's compatibility and defensive properties. Meanwhile, the Flame Demon's crown, made of fire with a pitiful 100 points in defense, clearly didn't have any. It was a costume piece at best. If one equipped the Flame Demon's crown during battle, they'd be asking for an early death. Shifeng simply revealed a bitter smile as he stored the Flame Demon's crown. He had to admit that his guild members' standards had significantly improved. Their understanding of weapons and equipment was no longer limited to basic attributes. Unfortunately, they were still somewhat ignorant. This didn't particularly surprise Shifeng. His teammates were still relatively low-leveled, after all. They still didn't fully understand resistances. They did not know just how valuable a piece of equipment capable of increasing fire resistance by 200 points was. Among the items in the fine gold treasure chest, the Flame Demon's crown was easily more valuable than the other items combined. By the time mainstream players had reached level 100 and beyond in the past, a Flame Demon's crown had sold for a whopping 5,000 gold. With that amount of money, one could purchase an epic equipment with poor attributes. Even so, players rarely sold their Flame Demon's crowns. Equipment that added 200 fire resistance was extremely rare. Most importantly, the Flame Demon's crown's Flame Demon's body allowed its wearer to become immune to burning effects. In other words, no matter how hot an environment was, players would not suffer any negative effects. They could maintain their combat power at its peak. Of course, due to the Flame Demon's crown's glaring weakness, it was only suitable for expert players. Ordinary players would be better off wearing several pieces of equipment that provided both basic attributes and fire resistance. Ordinary players already fought to get their basic attributes up to standard and as a result, struggled against monsters and in team dungeon raids. They would be asking for trouble by using a piece of specialized equipment like the Flame Demon's crown. However, expert players were different. They would easily have enough basic attributes even without wearing a headpiece. When fighting in sweltering environments, it was far more important for expert players to have high fire resistance. Hence, during the later stages of the game, the various large guilds' main force members had stopped focusing on basic attributes. Instead, they had prioritized resistances and physique. Moreover, the Flame Demon's crown was like an entry pass to the Flame Demon's Valley. As long as one had a Flame Demon's crown, they could travel anywhere within the valley. They wouldn't even have any issues exploring the Flaming Valley's core. Originally, Shifeng had worried that he didn't have enough fire resistance to survive in the central area, but now that he had the Flame Demon's crown, he wasn't concerned. Now, only the Flame Demon King himself would be a problem. In God's domain, the Flame Demon King was categorized as a world boss. Counter to most expectations, world bosses were not much stronger than ordinary field bosses. The system did not grant world bosses any special traits either. However, they did have full control over their territories. While in a world boss's territory, players would be prevented from using magic scrolls and magic arrays. It wasn't even possible to use magical tools. At most, players could use their weapons and equipment skills. It was a nightmare for most players. After emptying the fine gold treasure chest, Shifeng and the others continued towards the central region. After traveling for a little over an hour, they finally arrived before a fiery world. White-hot flames danced along the mountain range before them. The ring of mountains resembled a burning sun, making it difficult to look at. "This place is so hot," Blackie exclaimed as he looked at the flaming mountain range. Despite standing some distance away from the mountain range, he felt as if like roasting meat. Everyone on the team felt the sweltering heat. Even walking exhausted their stamina. Meanwhile, a gigantic figure wielding a trident patrolled the center of this mountain ring. Every one of this figure's movements stirred the flames around it as lava rose into the air. Even from several thousand yards away, Zero Wing's team could feel the figure's fierce aura. When they saw the Flame Demon King's true appearance, they couldn't help their gasps. Even Shifeng was shocked. Flame Demon King, Elemental Creature, Ancient Fiend, Mythic, Level 83. HP 720,000/720,000,000. An Ancient Fiend? How is this possible? Shifeng was indescribably shocked when he saw the Flame Demon King's statistics. Shouldn't it be an archaic species? Chapter 1849, World Gate. Guild Leader, don't tell me we're supposed to fight that boss? Is that really a mythic monster? The Flame Demon King was a 50-meter tall giant. Every one of its movements stirred up a storm in the sea of fire around it. Zero Wing's team could tell how terrifying this monster was just by looking at it. When he saw the Flame Demon King, Kola, who had brimmed with confidence, felt his scalp tingle. This boss could likely even slay a 1,000-man team of level 80, Tier 2 experts. Compared to the mythic monsters they've encountered thus far, the Flame Demon King was on an entirely different level. Could the new expansion pack I triggered have made the Flame Demon King stronger? Shifeng pondered as he looked at the Flame Demon King. The more he thought about it, the more his theory seemed plausible. After all, the Flame Demon's Valley was only a level 70+ map. It wasn't a level 100+ map. An Ancient Fiend shouldn't be here. An Ancient Fiend was an elemental creature that had fully unlocked its bloodline and reverted to its ancestral form. Although Ancient Fiends were no match for dragons in terms of life rating, they were fully capable of rivaling ferocious beasts. Even an expert team that was 20 levels higher wouldn't be a match for a mythic-ranked Ancient Fiend, much less an expert team of the same level. In addition, the Flame Demon King had a world boss's special ability. Not even a 100-man team of level 100, Tier 3 players could defeat this monster. There's no helping it, I can only adjust my plans. Following which, Shifeng addressed his team. I had thought that I could complete this quest and get everyone out of here safely, but that's no longer possible. I'll have to ask you all to sacrifice yourselves to lure the Flame Demon King away from its territory. Try to buy as much time for me as possible. Violet, you won't be joining the fight. I need you to hide in the distance. Once the battle is over, you'll be responsible for resurrecting the team. All he could do now was lure the Flame Demon King away from the World Gate. The players that would be responsible for buying time would die, but with the resurrection skill he had given Violet Cloud, they could reduce the death penalty his teammate suffered. I understand. Violet Cloud nodded. None of his teammates had any objections to Shifeng's proposal. They were the guild's main force members. Their weapons, equipment, and levels had been granted by their guild. It wasn't unusual to die for their guild's benefit very quickly. The team followed Shifeng's instructions. Kola would be the first player responsible for attracting the Flame Demon King's attention and luring it to the designated area. After Kola died, Turtledove and Yi Wumian would take over. Once all three MTs had died, the rest of the team would split up and flee, forcing the Flame Demon King to waste as much time as possible chasing them down. Move out. Shifeng commanded once he was in position a short distance away from the valley's entrance. Following his orders, Kola charged into the flaming valley. Shortly after he had set foot in the sea of fire, a deafening roar echoed from the valley's center. Little human. You dare trespass in the Flame Demon King, Monacoland's, territory? I'll show you just how frightening fire's anger is. As the voice faded, the Flame Demon King emerged from the raging flames, its movements causing waves of fire that washed over Kola. Not daring to be careless, Kola immediately activated Power of Darkness and hid behind Titan Guard. Boom! As the firestorm slammed into him, Kola stumbled 3 steps backward, a damage exceeding -20,000 appearing above his head. So strong. Just its movements caused such a powerful attack. Aqua Rose, who watched from afar, could not help her shock when she saw Kola lose 1/8 of his HP despite his active berserk skill. Normally, Kola could face a level 70 mythic monster head-on after activating his berserk skill, yet he had just lost so much HP after an indirect attack from the Flame Demon King. The team's other members paled when they saw this. If they had received that indirect attack, they would have likely lost over 50% of their HP. They felt like ants before this world boss. As the Flame Demon King's frightening strength stunned Zero Wings players, the boss had arrived before Kola. The Flame Demon King then thrust its trident at the Guardian Knight with so much speed that the attack had been invisible to the naked eye. Fortunately, Kola had already raised Titan Guard and blocked the attack in time. After blocking the attack, however, Kola had lost all feeling in his arms. Like a cannonball, he had been thrown back, only stopping as he crashed into a massive boulder. Kola's HP instantly fell by over 80,000, more than half of his total. The team was stunned. Just one attack had left Kola so miserable. The gap in strength was despairing. Heal him, quickly. Shifeng shouted through the team chat. The outcome didn't surprise him. After all, their opponent was a mythic-ranked ancient fiend. If not for the fragmented legendary-ranked Titan Guard, Kola might have died instantly. Upon hearing Shifeng's command, the Tier 2 healers snapped out of their daze and cast healing spells on Kola, instantly restoring the Guardian Knight's HP to 70%. However, the Flame Demon King was already stabbing its trident at Kola again, the weapon releasing white-hot fire. The white-hot flames shocked Kola. Hurriedly, he activated Protection Blessing. After its upgrade to Tier 2, Protection Blessing reduced the damage he took by 60%. However, when the trident met Kola's shield, the stone under his feet shattered, forming a crater. Meanwhile, Kola's HP fell by more than 60,000, dropping his HP into the red. By the time the Flame Demon King executed another attack, the team's healers only recovered Kola's HP to 50% of his total. Realizing how precarious his situation was, Kola used Titan's Heart, forming 3 layers of protective energy, which could absorb up to 10 times his maximum HP, around him. With Titan's Heart in effect, Kola quickly fled the Sea of Fire. Seeing Kola pull away from the valley, Shifeng breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had upgraded Titan Guard to the fragmented legendary rank earlier. Otherwise, the 3 MTs wouldn't be able to lure the Flame Demon King away before they died, even if Kola, Turtledove, and Yi Wumian worked together. Afterward, equipping the Flame Demon's crown, Shifeng activated Gale Domain and charged into the flames that could even melt fine iron. As expected of the Flame Demon's crown, it really is wondrously effective. When Shifeng soared through the fire, he only felt a little warm. He wasn't in any pain at all. Due to the additional 200 fire resistance the crown provided, he now had over 400 fire resistance. His HP only fell by a little over 100 each second he remained in the fire. After flying for about 40 seconds, he noticed Cola's name darken among the list of his team members. It was obvious that the Flame Demon King had killed Cola. So quickly? When Shifeng realized that he was still over 200 yards away from the stone gate in the center of the valley, his expression darkened. Cola was the sturdiest player in the team. He had thought that the Guardian Knight alone would be able to buy him enough time to reach the World Gate, but it seemed that the Flame Demon King was much stronger than he had expected. As soon as Shifeng reached the World Gate, he pulled out the Philosopher's hand and used it to activate the stone doors. At this point, Turtledove had also fallen, and only Yi Wumian remained alive of the team's 3 MTs. I need to hurry. Shifeng used the Philosopher's hand's power to repair the broken magic arrays on the World Gate. As he did, a furious roar reached him from outside of the valley. Despicable trespasser! You dare to open the World Gate? As the voice faded, a pillar of fire rose from its origin. Following which, everyone but Shifeng and Violet Cloud's names went dark. This situation put immense pressure on Shifeng. He pushed himself to work faster. Faster. While Shifeng repaired the World Gate's magic arrays, he could feel the space around him boil. This meant that he was already standing within the Flame Demon King's sphere of influence. The ancient fiend's movement speed had completely exceeded his expectations. Despicable human. Vanish alongside your sins. When the Flame Demon King caught sight of Shifeng, it threw its flaming trident at the swordsman. However, before the trident could reach Shifeng, he activated the aura of Earth's absolute domain. Yes. It's done. Using the period of invulnerability absolute domain granted him, Shifeng completed the final magic array. Following which, he placed a hand on the World Gate's main magic array and said, "Open. World Gate." Chapter 1850, Hidden Reward. With Shifeng's command, the divine runes on the gigantic pair of doors before him began to glow with a purple-gold light. A moment later, the divine runes released a beam of light that threatened to devour the Flame Demon King. No. Upon seeing the beam, the Flame Demon King, who was within 50 yards of Shifeng, turned in a panic and tried to flee. However, the beam of light was much faster than the Flame Demon King. In the blink of an eye, the purple-gold light enveloped the world boss, and the ancient fiend cried out in pain. In the next moment, the Flame Demon King began to shrink, and the flames around its body gradually extinguished. A short moment later, the World Gate slowly opened. Some force sucked the valley's fire through the opening gates, and the Flame Demon King began to shrink even faster. From its original height of 50 meters, the Flame Demon King quickly shrunk to 40 meters. 30 meters. 10 meters. By the time the World Gate was fully open, the black hole within had devoured every last flame in the valley. The Flame Demon King had also been dragged towards the World Gate by the black hole's powerful gravity. No. This is my power, the Flame Demon King shouted, panicking as it used every shred of power to fight the black hole's pull. Seeing this, Shifeng could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. He had no hope against a level 83 mythic-ranked ancient fiend right now. Fortunately, the World Gate could remove things that didn't originate from the continent of God's domain. While the World Gate had activated, the Philosopher's hand had also undergone a transformation. The Philosopher's hand had originally been made of translucent crystal, radiating an ominous feeling. Now, however, not only had the ominous feeling disappeared, but the translucent hand had also transformed into a blood-red bead. What pristine mana! As Shifeng held the blood-red bead, he could feel incredibly pure mana emerge from it. This mana was even purer than that from the 7 luminaries' crystals. Suddenly, Shifeng heard the sound of a system notification. System, congratulations! You have completed the epic-ranked main storyline quest, Philosopher's Wish, before level 80. Rewarding Philosopher's Hand, plus 40% EXP of current level, 5 legacy skill points, 30 free mastery points, 30,000 subclass proficiency points, and 1 subclass dark gold design. When the system notification ended, Shifeng's experience bar rose to 52% of level 68. However, obtaining the complete Philosopher's Hand excited Shifeng far more than the bountiful EXP. This was a bona fide legendary item. Any superpower in God's domain would easily go mad over this. Moreover, Shifeng was surprised by the additional reward for completing the quest before reaching level 80. 5 legacy skill points were no small matter. In addition, the awarded 30,000 subclass proficiency points would save him a lot of time when upgrading his Forger subclass. After reaching the master rank, players would still need a ridiculous number of proficiency points to rise from a basic master to an intermediate master. While ordinary master lifestyle players might not have trouble earning the required proficiency points, it was a different story for Shifeng. Shifeng had many matters he needed to deal with, and he only had a small amount of time to invest in his forging. As a result, he didn't obtain forging proficiency points very quickly. However, the most valuable of the rewards had to be the subclass dark gold design. This subclass dark gold design wasn't like ordinary designs. Not only could it upgrade a design to dark gold rank, but the new design would be a player creation. It was common knowledge that becoming a master lifestyle player was incredibly difficult. Players needed to create completely new items, which had to meet certain requirements. To accomplish this feat, players needed a certain understanding of items and materials. This was also the case when players tried to rise from a basic master to an intermediate master. In fact, the promotion to an intermediate master was even more difficult since players would have to create 1 dark gold item or 3 fine gold items. This hurdle had been the end of the line for many basic master lifestyle players during Shifeng's previous life. In the past, when one had referred to a master lifestyle player, they had generally meant basic masters. The majority of God's domain's master lifestyle players had been basic rank. After 10 years in the game, basic masters hadn't received as much attention from first-rate guilds, although they were still VIPs in second-rate guilds. At most, they would be treated slightly better than the average lifestyle player. Only intermediate masters had earned first-rate guilds' respect. Now that he had a subclass dark gold design, he had received a free pass to become an intermediate master. Of course, an intermediate master that reached the rank by using a subclass dark gold design wasn't as capable as a player that reached the rank through their own hard work and original items. The latter had solidified their foundation, while the former had none. A player who became an intermediate master, though their work would have a higher possibility of creating more dark gold items in the future, soon becoming an advanced master. On the other hand, the intermediate master that did not possess a sturdy foundation would struggle to advance. The only real benefit of using such a cheap method to become an intermediate master was the higher production success rates that came with the rank. Even so, many basic master lifestyle players had spent their entire life savings to get their hands on a subclass dark gold design during Shifeng's previous life, since they had already reached their limits. As Shifeng celebrated his additional rewards, the world gate began to close. By the time the world gate had shut, the valley was void of fire. Only the scorched earth remained. Despicable human. It took me hundreds of years to accumulate that power. And now it's all gone. You will pay for this with your soul. I will turn you into a puppet that will forever live under my command, the Flame Demon King bellowed as it glared at Shifeng. Currently, the Flame Demon King was only 8 meters tall. It looked like an infant compared to its previous size. Its aura was also much weaker. Flame Demon King, elemental creature, mythic. Level 81. HP 32,000,000/32,000,000. The Flame Demon King didn't even have the HP of a mythic monster anymore. A mana depletion debuff also graced its status bar, lasting for a whole hour. The World Gate has robbed it of so much energy. Shifeng was astonished when he saw the enraged Flame Demon King. The valley's flames had originated from a higher plane, containing unparalleled power. The fire had been highly sought after by fire elementals since they could increase the elemental's power. The Flame Demon King had only grown so strong because it had continuously absorbed these flames' power. Now that the World Gate had returned these flames to their source, the Flame Demon King had lost the power it had accumulated over the years. With the energy that had bolstered its physical form gone, it was only natural that the Flame Demon King had weakened. Only, Shifeng never thought that the Flame Demon King would grow this weak. Thinking up to this point, Shifeng abandoned all thoughts of escape. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When the time the mana depletion debuff ended, the Flame Demon King would recover its strength. Although it wouldn't be as strong as it had been, it would still be beyond current players' capabilities. Before the Flame Demon King could launch an attack, Shifeng activated Power of Darkness, Phantom Kill, and Dragon Soul. A level 68 High Lord ranked Black Dragon should have zero chances against a level 80 Mythic monster, but now, the Black Dragon had the upper hand against the weakened Flame Demon King. While the Black Dragon kept the Flame Demon King busy, Shifeng activated every skill he had to the weakened boss. Thunder Flame Explosion. Flame Burst. 9 Dragon Slash. Lightning Slash. Although the weakened Flame Demon King was still a world boss, whose ability prevented players from using external tools, it no longer mattered. The Flame Demon King's defense had drastically fallen, after all. Now, Shifeng's normal attacks dealt over -30,000 damage, while critical hits dealt over -70,000 damage. Even the weakest of his skills inflicted over -100,000 damage. Even when the Flame Demon King used its powerful AoE attacks, Shifeng, who had over 400 fire resistance, only took a little over -3,000 damage from each hit. The Flame Demon King's HP continued to fall. 80%. 50%. 20%. When the Black Dragon's duration was almost over, the Flame Demon King had around 10% HP remaining. Once the Black Dragon was gone, Shifeng would have to fight the world boss head-on. I guess there's no other choice. Shifeng sighed as he came to terms with his current predicament. A moment later, he retrieved the evil god's inheritance from his bag once more. Trying to escape a world boss was an extremely difficult task. This was especially true now that he had used all of his skills. Furthermore, it wasn't every day that he found himself in such a favorable position against a world boss. Die. Gritting his teeth, Shifeng sacrificed his attributes to activate the evil god's inheritance. He then activated Godslayer. 5 pitch-black sword lights instantly pierced the Flame Demon King, leaving 5 deep grooves in the rocky ground before Shifeng. Despicable human. If the World Gate hadn't taken my power from me, the Flame Demon King's eyes burned with rage as it glared at Shifeng, but despite its fury, the Flame Demon King's HP didn't stop depleting before it eventually reached 0. Boom! As the Flame Demon King fell to the ground, its fiery body started to dissipate. A short moment later, only Shifeng remained in the scorched valley. Chapter 1851, Flame Demon King's Loot. After the Flame Demon King died, the rampaging mana in the valley settled down. It's finally dead. Shifeng breathed out a sigh of relief as the Black Dragon disappeared, shortly after the Flame Demon King died. If not for the Black Dragon's assistance, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the Flame Demon King. After all, even though the Flame Demon King was weakened, it was still a mythic monster. The boss had possessed not only superior strength but also far more HP. Even if the Flame Demon King had only 10% of its HP left, it would still have had more than enough time to kill him. Although he had to sacrifice another 10 points of every basic attribute to kill the Flame Demon King, he forgot about the loss when he saw the small mountain of items the boss dropped. The Flame Demon King was a world boss. Although it had been weakened due to his quest, it was still a mythic-ranked world boss, hence the extremely bountiful loot. Not to mention, as this was the first time the Flame Demon King was killed, it was guaranteed to drop a 4-star guild promotion order. Future Flame Demon Kings killed would have only a certain chance of dropping the promotion order. This item was also the reason why he had persisted in killing the Flame Demon King to the point of permanently weakening himself. Currently, Zero Wing was a 3-star guild and held a significant advantage over other guilds. However, as the various superpowers started raiding level 50, 100-man Hell Mode team dungeons, it was only a matter of time before they became 3-star guilds as well. Meanwhile, compared to Zero Wing, the various superpowers would gain much more of an advantage from being a 3-star guild. Be it the guild employment center or guild training room, these two facilities needed guilds to reach a certain scale in order to display their usefulness fully. In other words, the larger a guild was, the better the guild could leverage these two facilities. In the case of Zero Wing, despite the rapid expansion it was currently undergoing, in terms of member count, it was far from rivaling even first-rate guilds. The operations of the various superpowers spanned over a dozen kingdoms and empires. Their member counts naturally dwarfed Zero Wing's. Once these superpowers became 3-star guilds, their development speed would undoubtedly skyrocket. At that time, not only would these superpowers be able to nurture a large number of elite players, but the income their guilds generated would also increase substantially. If Zero Wing, a guild that ruled over only a single kingdom, wished to surpass these superpowers, which had become 3-star guilds, in terms of development speed, then there was only one way to do so. By getting promoted into a 4-star guild. Unlike a 3-star guild, the benefits offered by a 4-star guild did not manifest with the scale of a guild. Instead, these benefits were apparent in the finer details. Reaching the 4-star rank would not give a guild the privilege to construct any additional facilities. Instead, what a guild gained from the 4-star rank was the recognition of the Adventurers Association as a large-scale guild. At that time, the Adventurers Association would directly issue large-scale quests to the guild. These large-scale quests ranged from easy to very difficult, even national-level quests were available. The rewards for these quests were extremely generous. Moreover, these quests also provided players with good opportunities to raise their ranks in the Adventurers Association. In addition to receiving large-scale quests, 4-star guilds would be designated a temporary rest area in every Adventurers Association on the continent of God's domain. While this rest area was relatively small, it allowed members of 4-star guilds to receive commissioned quests from every NPC town and city on the continent, not just from towns and cities where their respective guilds had residences. Due to this benefit, members of 4-star guilds could travel all over the continent to do quests, no longer hindered in their leveling speed and acquirement of resources by competition over a limited number of quests. The only downside to this was the Adventurers Association's tax on players' quest rewards when completing commissioned quests accepted from these designated rest areas. This, in turn, reduced the guild's income from these quests. Even so, this benefit would still help guilds generate much more wealth than before. At the same time, guilds would also be able to raise their popularity in the various NPC kingdoms and empires significantly, killing two birds with one stone. This was the distinguishing feature of a 4-star guild. After reaching the 4-star rank, a guild's development would no longer be tied down to the territories they controlled. Of course, the consequence of this feature was also very obvious. The amount of competition guilds had to face would increase drastically. However, so long as Zero Wing managed to become a 4-star guild ahead of others, it would seize a significant advantage over the other guilds, hence Shifeng's persistence in killing the Flame Demon King. Following which, Shifeng started going through the Flame Demon King's loot. Just like he expected, there was indeed a 4-star guild promotion order among the dropped items. So long as a 3-star guild possessed 200,000 guild popularity, it could be upgraded into a 4-star guild using this promotion order. As expected of a world boss, its loot sure is bountiful. Shifeng was inwardly astonished as he looked over the statistics of the other dropped items. The Flame Demon King had dropped over 100 items in total, the majority of which were rare materials, including the extremely rare 7 Luminaries crystal. Although only 3 7 Luminaries crystals dropped, the equivalent often units, the value of these 7 Luminaries crystals still exceeded that of the other materials by a large margin. The rest of the loot were level 70 plus weapons and equipment. Practically every one of these weapons and equipment was of fine gold rank, only one of them was epic rank. Among the fine gold equipment dropped, 4 pieces belonged to the level 70 fine gold ranked Sins of Thunderfire set. The boss also dropped the entire level 70 fine gold ranked Scorching Wind set. While the weapons and equipment dropped looked subpar at best, Shifeng's eyes glowed with excitement when he saw them. His reaction was because the Sins of Thunderfire set was top-tier set equipment for magical classes. This was set equipment that only level 70 plus mythic ranked field bosses dropped. The set had a total of 6 pieces, and even superpowers would need to expend a lot of effort to collect the complete set. As for the Scorching Wind set, it was similarly top-tier set equipment but for plate armor classes instead of magical classes. Not only did the Scorching Wind set provide higher fire resistance than the Dark Corrosion set, but its 6-piece set effect was also extremely heaven-defying. It allowed players to transform into a war god of fire and acquire a life rating that could rival archaic species. Although players would incur double damage from ice and water-type attacks than they normally would, it was still plenty amazing. The Sins of Thunderfire set's 6-piece set effect was similar to the Scorching Wind set's, allowing its user to transform into a Thunderfire messenger. Due to these 2 set effects, despite the ordinary basic attributes the 2 sets provided, they had ended up publicly recognized as the strongest level 70 set equipment available in the game. Even level 70 Dark Gold set equipment could not rival them. Shifeng had never thought that he would be able to obtain the entire Scorching Wind set. As for the Sins of Thunderfire set, he was just short of 2 set pieces to complete the set. Once he geared 2 guild experts in these 2 sets, he would have himself 2 peak experts. As for the sole epic equipment dropped, it was a pair of cloth armor gloves named Hands of Fire. Not only did the gloves provide a significant amount of fire resistance, but it even increased the spell completion rate of players by 2%. It also had a skill that allowed its user to summon a Lord-ranked fire familiar, making this pair of gloves perfect for Magicka-class players that were not adept in melee combat. After Shifeng was done going through the Flame Demon King's loot, he then took out the Philosopher's Hand from his bag and inspected it, suppressing the excitement in his heart as he looked through its attribute panel. As he needed to deal with the Flame Demon King before, he had not had any time to inspect the fully recovered Philosopher's Hand. Now that the Flame Demon King was dealt with, he naturally had to take a good look at this legendary item, which had disappeared from God's domain in his previous life. Chapter 1852, Complete Philosopher's Hand. The instant Shifeng retrieved the Philosopher's Hand from his bag, he felt the space around him grow heavier. It felt as if space itself couldn't withstand the pristine energy within the Philosopher's Hand. Now that Shifeng had the chance to get a better feel for the Philosopher's Hand, he felt a powerful inspiration well within him. His mind felt sharp and focused like never before. It was as if the world had faded away, leaving him alone with his thoughts. So, this is the true Philosopher's Hand? Shifeng could not help his excitement as he gazed at the crimson bead in his hand. Philosopher's Hand, legendary rank item. A special gemstone crafted by the philosopher Erhard, containing incredible power that is capable of manipulating the soul. Additional passive effect. The wielder of the Philosopher's Hand will have all of their subclasses temporarily raised by 1 rank. Additional active skill 1-. Philosopher's Soul offers players guidance for 10 hours when crafting items. Cooldown, 12 hours. Additional active skill 2-. Soul Fantasy allows players to enter an imaginary world for 8 hours. During this time, players may use the materials that they know of to produce items without limit. Cooldown, 15 hours. Although the Philosopher's Hand only possessed 3 skills, these skills were heaven-defying. Based on Shifeng's knowledge, only the epic-ranked Icarus's Heart could temporarily raise a lifestyle player to master rank. In Shifeng's opinion, Icarus's Heart's ability to do so was already heaven-defying, but compared to the Philosopher's Hand, Icarus's Heart was a cheap knockoff. However, compared to the Philosopher's Hand, Icarus's Heart couldn't even be considered a cheap knockoff. The fact that the Philosopher's Hand could unconditionally raise a player's subclass by 1 rank meant that it could transform a basic master into an intermediate master or an intermediate master into an advanced master. The Philosopher's Soul also offered the system's guidance, which would be a great help to players when they produced items. Originally, the skill had been limited to a 1-hour duration. Unfortunately, it was almost impossible to accomplish anything useful in that time. Crafting items was a time-consuming process, after all, especially complex items. How many items could players possibly make within 1 hour? Now that the skill's duration had increased to 10 hours, players could attempt to craft far more complex items with the system's guidance. Lastly, Soul Fantasy granted players access to the main god system's resource warehouse. After seeing the Philosopher's Hand's 2 active skills, Shifeng finally understood why the item was capable of producing so many lifestyle masters. Regardless of the subclass, any lifestyle player would require materials to craft new items. Although some tools allowed players to participate in simulations, these simulations couldn't truly replicate the material's properties. At most, these simulations allowed players to get a feel of the production procedures. An actual attempt would still require real materials. Meanwhile, to reach the master rank, players needed very high-ranked items. Hence, the material requirements were quite high. However, high-ranking materials were not easy to obtain, and players would need these materials in large quantities. Experimenting with a few sets of materials would barely yield any results. Every lifestyle master was born of an astronomical resource investment. This was even true for the talented geniuses. Only, geniuses would need to spend fewer materials compared to ordinary lifestyle masters. However, with Soul Fantasy, players could experiment to their heart's content without worrying about lacking materials. Naturally, this would make new item creation very easy. I'm going to have a headache once I return. Shifeng revealed a bitter smile as he looked at the Philosopher's Hand. While he had acquired the alchemy treasure, there was still the matter of how to use it. There was only one Philosopher's Hand, yet the Candlelight trading firm had tons of advanced lifestyle players waiting to use it. He would have to decide which players were worthy of the privilege. Most importantly, he'd have to worry about information leaks. Due to an information leak, Kingdom Sword, the Philosopher's Hand's owner in the past, had become a target for the various superpowers, eventually vanishing from God's domain altogether. Although Zero Wing was impressively powerful right now, if multiple superpowers decided to make it their target, it would suffer a similar fate. He needed to be extremely careful when using the Philosopher's Hand. Shifeng stored the Philosopher's Hand and exited the Scorched Valley. When Zero Wing's members, whom Violet Cloud had resurrected, saw Shifeng emerge, they breathed a sigh of relief. Due to the Flame Demon King's outburst, the entire team had been annihilated in an instant. They had barely bought their guild leader any time. Guild leader, how did the quest go? Aqua Rose asked worriedly. Not only were high-ranked quests incredibly dangerous, but they also gave players very few chances of success. Plenty of quests only gave players a single attempt, and since their deaths had been so unexpected, they knew it was likely that this attempt had been a failure. Hence, Aqua Rose wondered if they'd have a second chance. On the off chance that this quest didn't offer a second chance, Shifeng would have to suffer the system's penalty. To ordinary guild experts, suffering a system penalty wouldn't be much of a problem. At worst, if the penalty were severe, they could just start over with a new account. However, Shifeng was different. He was Zero Wing's guild leader. If he suffered such a severe penalty, it would shake the very foundation of the guild. Relax. I completed my quest, Shifeng said, chuckling at the worried expression on Aqua Rose's face. That's wonderful. I worried that we had failed the quest and you'd have to pay a high price for it. Now that the quest is complete, we didn't waste our trip here, Aqua Rose said, breathing a sigh of relief. She then looked at Shifeng curiously and asked, "But, guild leader, you really are amazing. You actually escaped the Flame Demon King after completing your quest. Looking at the terrain, there should only be one path out of the valley. How did you manage to hide from the boss, guild leader. She had experienced the Flame Demon King's frightening might personally. The world boss had been beyond terrifying. It was basically a god to current players. She found it very difficult to imagine any players defeating the Flame Demon King, even after reaching the same level. She didn't even know if a 100-man team of level 100 players had any hope against the Flame Demon King. Hearing Aqua Rose's question, the rest of Shifeng's team turned towards him, curious. The Flame Demon King had slain Turtledove, a tier 2 metric tons who had activated her berserk skill, in just 3 hits, yet Shifeng had escaped the boss unharmed. It was incredible. Hide. I wish I could have hidden from it, but the valley is only so large. Where would I possibly hide? Shifeng said, shaking his head. Huh. If you didn't hide from it, how did you get away safely, guild leader? Didn't the Flame Demon King discover you as you left? Shifeng's reply on confused Aqua rose further. When the Flame Demon King had killed her, she had caught a glimpse of the boss as it charged back into the valley, where Shifeng had still been. It discovered me, of course, Shifeng said, smiling. But rather than wait for it to attack, I decided to strike first. Then, guild leader, how did you get out? Aqua Rose asked, utterly confounded. Did you use an auto-resurrection tool? Although auto-resurrection tools were very rare and precious in God's domain, they were nothing new. Aqua Rose couldn't think of any other way that Shifeng would have escaped the Flame Demon King's pursuit. Take a look at this, Shifeng said, smiling as he retrieved a gigantic, crimson crystal ball from his bag. The fire-type mana within the crystal ball was so dense that the ambient fire-type mana automatically gathered around it. Isn't that a flame core? But the fire-type mana in the core is incredibly dense. It's even denser than the flame cores we obtained from Great Lord-ranked flame demons. Looking at the gigantic flame core in Shifeng's hands, Aqua Rose realized a possibility. Doubtfully, she asked, could it be? Guild leader. Did you kill the Flame Demon King? Chapter 1853, Returning to White River City. Looking at the flame core in Shifeng's hand, Kola and the others fell silent, incredulity flashing in their eyes. Guild leader, are you for real? They had all witnessed and experienced the Flame Demon King's might. Only Kola had been able to stand against the boss for any length of time. The rest of the team had been forced to flee to buy their guild leader the time he needed. While they considered the possibility of Shifeng fighting such a boss, they knew that it would only be a matter of time before he died as well. As for Shifeng slaying the Flame Demon King, that was simply impossible. However, the flame core before them was proof of the swordsman's claim. Moreover, the raging inferno that had consumed the valley was gone, not even a spark remained. For a time, they were utterly baffled. I have killed the Flame Demon King, but only its weakened version, Shifeng explained, smiling. With the explanation, the team could, more or less, accept the fact that Shifeng had killed the boss. Otherwise, they would have suspected Shifeng of abusing some bug in the game. Right, Kola, how far are you from level 58 right now? Shifeng asked as he turned to the MT. Level 58? After taking a look at his experience bar, Kola said, after my recent death, I'm 73% away from level 58. What about you, Summer? Shifeng asked as he turned to alluring Summer, who wore an exquisite set of light blue robes. How far are you from level 59? I'm down to 6% of level 58. I'll need quite a few days before I reach level 59, alluring Summer said. Guild leader, what's going on? Aqua Rose asked, giving Shifeng a strange look. She didn't understand why he suddenly asked about those two's levels. It's nothing. You two are a little low-leveled right now. Once we return, stop raiding dungeons and come level with me. Violet, you'll join us as well, Shifeng said after giving the matter some thought. Now that he had the Scorching Wind set and Sins of Thunderfire set, it would be a waste to let them collect dust. Although the level 70 equipment requirement was quite high, it wasn't a problem without its solutions. Both Cola and Alluring Summer had equipment that reduced items' level requirements, though only by 5 levels. However, he had requirement gemstones, which could reduce the level requirements by another 5 levels. Once they equipped the requirement gemstones, Cola and Alluring Summer could wear items that were 10 levels higher than them. Once they donned the set equipment, it would increase the overall strength of the guild's main force by a significant margin. We're low-leveled? Alluring Summer blinked in astonishment at her own level. She already had the highest level in the team. Even in an empire, she'd be the undisputed number 1 player on the empire's ranking list. However, the comment didn't dampen Alluring Summer's excitement in the least. After all, she was going to level up alongside Shifeng. Guild leader, we've rested already. Let's hurry and head back, Cola said impatiently after hearing Shifeng's intentions. Their teammates looked on with a little envy. When leveling up with Shifeng, not only would they rise in levels with astonishing speed, but they'd also improve their combat standards quickly. Following which, everyone used return scrolls to teleport back to White River City. Once they returned, Shifeng had Aqua Rose organize a team to mine the Source Fire Vein, only selecting trustworthy players. He then contacted Melancholic Smile, instructing her to select trustworthy advanced lifestyle players from the Candlelight trading firm for the Philosopher's Hand. These players would be required to sign an extremely strict contract, since containing the secret of the Philosopher's Hand was of the utmost importance. He could not afford for the public to discover its existence. He'd only be able to relax after Zero Wing could properly protect itself. Otherwise, Zero Wing would definitely follow in the Kingdom's Sword's footsteps. While Shifeng rode an advanced horse carriage towards the Adventurers Association to promote Zero Wing to a 4-star guild, Gentle Snow contacted him. Guild leader, big trouble. Gentle Snow said anxiously. Not long ago, there was a system announcement in the Orc Empire, stating that Blackwater had captured the Crimson Flame Fortress. The Crimson Flame Fortress? Isn't that a transit hub to the Orc capital city? They actually managed to capture it? Shifeng had already investigated the Orc Empire's various fortresses. Each fortress varied in its importance. The more important it was, the more orcs it would contain. The Crimson Flame Fortress was a crucial transit hub for the Orc Empire. Players heading for the Orc capital city or other kingdoms or empires through the Orc Empire would have to pass through this fortress. Because of this, the Crimson Flame Fortress was invaluable to the Orc Empire. According to player reports, over 700,000 orcs were stationed there, including 4 mythic orcs. One of these 4 mythic orcs even had a special bloodline, which made it far stronger than ordinary mythic monsters. In addition, the Crimson Flame Fortress was protected by powerful war weapons and defensive walls. Current players shouldn't be capable of raiding the Crimson Flame Fortress, even with Beast Emperor's help. We don't know how they managed to do it exactly, but based on the current reports, Blackwater has already dispatched a large number of players to garrison in the Crimson Flame Fortress. Blackwater has also officially announced the fortress's grand opening to the public on the Orc Empire's official forums. In addition, Blackwater has placed a bounty on every Zero Wing member. Right now, players gain 1 point for killing a normal member, 5 points for elite members, and 50 points for core members. These points can then be traded for coins or weapons and equipment. In addition, depending on how many points a player has collected, they can get discounts for the Crimson Flame Fortress's teleportation arrays. Players will receive a 10% discount for 500 accumulated points, 20% if they accumulate 3,000 points, and 30% if they accumulate 10,000 points. Those with over 10,000 points will even enjoy the benefits of a Blackwater core member. Shortly after this forum post was uploaded, a large number of players swarmed towards the Crimson Flame Fortress. The Orc Empire is in chaos. I doubt it will be long before this news reaches players in the neighboring kingdoms as well. Even more players will join this madness. I've also heard that a large number of dark players have set their sights on our members. As he listened to Gentle Snow's report, Shifeng's expression darkened. They're being so ruthless. Shifeng also could not help his surprise at Blackwater's generosity. To secure a share of the pie known as God's Domain, the Blackwater Corporation had invested heavily into the Blackwater Guild. That investment enabled the guild to offer its members even greater benefits than other superpowers. As a result, many expert players had sought to join the guild, especially when they had learned of its core member benefits. The benefits were so generous that even large guilds' upper echelons envied Blackwater's core members. However, becoming a core member in Blackwater wasn't easy. It wasn't enough to be an expert player. One also needed a list of noteworthy achievements. Moreover, Blackwater limited the number of core members the guild could have at a single time. With how many expert players Blackwater had, it was easy to imagine how difficult it was to become a core member. Even so, a vast number of players did everything they could to achieve that status. Now that Blackwater offered those same benefits for kill points, how could players ignore the temptation? Moreover, by doing so, Blackwater could scout for true peak experts. Even if Blackwater couldn't convince these peak experts to bear the responsibility of a core member, the guild could persuade these experts to become allies. Guild leader, should we limit our guild members' activity within the Orc Empire? Gentle Snow suggested. No. Shifeng shook his head. We're already limited to a small area. If we reduce that further, our members in Silverwing Town won't be able to level up. Since Blackwater has already declared war against us, then we'll prepare for war as well. Post an announcement on the Orc Empire's forums, stating that Zero Wing will offer the same point system as Blackwater. But, Blackwater has too many advantages over us. Even if we establish a similar system, I'm afraid that very few people will side with us, Gentle Snow said worriedly. Relax. I have a surprise for Blackwater, Shifeng said, smiling. Shifeng disconnected the call as the carriage arrived before the Adventurers Association. After alighting from the carriage, he walked into the building, brimming with confidence.